Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hang Up on Wednesday night. I'm Matt Dillahunty. Thanks for joining me. It's been a busy week for me. Hope you guys are doing really well. Um, I'm exhausted, but that's all right because this actually revitalized me. We're taking phone calls tonight after I blab for a couple minutes and bring my guest in to blab for a couple minutes. 720-619-2288 is the number. And we're continuing my year of Zen. And that means that, there's not going to be a crash out. There's not going to be the yelling. I will still use as much profanity as I like just because I enjoy it. But basically, I know logic and I know some things about religion, but we're more interested in you being able to demonstrate the truth of your religion. So if you're the type of person who can tell us what you believe and why, and by the way, that goes for all the things that we may not agree with. This isn't just about religion. If you are in disagreement about, I don't know, political issues, things that maybe your religion doesn't have much of a statement on, kind of assessments in reality, all of that's great. Just remember a few things. What this boils down to is tell us what you believe, probably answer some clarifying questions, understand that there's going to be a slight delay, and that's going to make things difficult. We'll have to, pause a little bit. I hope I don't have to mute anybody, but then tell us why you think we should believe the thing that you believe. That's what I'm most interested in. I'm not really interested in here's what I believe, but I don't have any interest in proving it to you. I can't demonstrate it. I'm not even sure you should believe it. Um, this isn't like open mic night at the library where there's three people waiting to hear what your opinion is or what you read about. Um, we're looking to be convinced of things. Hey, am I wrong about the left, the right? Am I wrong about a God? Am I wrong about spirits, souls, the supernatural, heaven, hell? Am I wrong about morality? Just try to keep in mind that we're going to be hopefully interrupting as little as possible. We're going to have to. Otherwise, we run the risk of talking past each other. And this isn't a race. If you go back and watch, and I think this holds up, you will get to say much, much more if you say it in manageable conversational doses, wait for it to get addressed, rather than trying to rush through two or three points at once. Uh, if your reason that we should believe something is because there's a lengthy story or some lecture or some esoteric jargon, that's probably not going to go too well, but at least understand that that's going to complicate things where we're going to ask more questions. And absolutely nothing about your reason for believing something should in any way be contingent on knowing what mine or my guest's view are on anything. Nothing. You came to believe whatever you believed, irrespective of what our previous views are, our standards of evidence, who we are, what biases we do or don't have. And so we're really looking to be convinced. And we don't think it's likely that it's going to happen, or at least I don't think it's likely that it's going to happen. And it's in part because we seem to have lost a lot when it comes to understanding how to have conversations, how to have debates. I don't mind. I've had heated debates. By the way, call-in shows and the call-in stuff, it's not the same as the public formal debates. I mean, we take on all callers here, and you're not expected to know stuff, and we're not expected to research and be prepared with opening statements. And there's a whole different set of preparing that goes in for stuff like that. And I didn't keep up on all the news because I went to NanoCon, and also it was the weekend that Spider-Man Brand New Day came out, and I knew I wasn't going to get to see it until I got back, so we went and saw it yesterday. And so I was avoiding spoilers, which also meant I was avoiding news. I know there's election results, and I have barely been able to keep up with what's coming in. I've heard Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan won the primary there. And once upon a time, I was reflecting how once upon a time, I wouldn't have known or cared that there was a primary for any state and any position, let alone a state I didn't live in. And yet, this one's kind of important. And there's the online gambling services like Polymarket and things like that. Once upon a time, I wouldn't have given a damn about them at all. Like, I like to play poker and I've played poker for money. I've paid rent and lost rent. Well, and actually, I never lost rent. I didn't play with money that wasn't extra, but um, I love poker, but I don't like just raw gambling. But I will say that it may be the case that these online gambling sites, while they are probably in many ways a huge problem, they might be good and better market indicators of who's going to win an election than the polls are. I mean, at least that's the case where people are putting the money where their mouth is. And by the way, when it comes to, what political category are you in? I don't know. Um, I don't really care to label it. I'm a leftist rather than a liberal, I think, given, the latest delineations. Um, I'm a socialist, but not a communist. But I certainly have those leanings. Um, I I basically like to. I'm a democratic socialist. Do I support the DSA or everything the DSA says? No. Um, I don't really know, and mostly I don't care. Mostly it's for me, it's about issues, I'm reluctant to label myself or allow other people to label me or say what I am or am not, um, for fear that somebody will say, "Oh, Matt's this," and they'll assume it means 10 things that it doesn't necessarily uh, mean at all. When I got back, there were a number of cool things waiting for me in my social media feeds, including this post from Bill Maher. It's a little meme where, oh, they make the left look all weird, and we're going to make sure everyone's needs are met, and we make the right look all scary. We're going to exterminate entire social groups because we believe they're impure. And then there's the centrists say, I'm voting for the right. And this is basically backing up a news story where Bill Maher said that he'd vote for Sarah Palin before the Democratic Party with socialists taking over. So, congrats. We've known you were shit and anti-science for a long time. I've called you out half a dozen times. It's it's not surprising, and I don't actually believe it. Like, I'd like to think that he's still left enough that this is hyperbole, that this is I'm terrified of this. And so what I did is I went and looked, and there's some screenshots. Whoops, sorry, that's not where it's supposed to be. I got some screenshots of the DSA's Workers Deserve More platform. And so here's what someone posted. DSA is looking for a 32-hour work week, paid family leave for all, universal health care, abolish student debt, establish universal rent control, enact reparations for slavery, take steps to abolish police and prison systems, enact a new Green Deal or Green New Deal, defund the Department of War, end military and economic aid to Israel, abolish ICE, voting rights for all U.S. residents, eliminate dark money from politics, public ownership of largest corporations, aggressive wealth taxes on the rich, replace the president and SCOTUS with an executive and judiciary chosen by and subordinate to Congress, abolish the two-party system, expand the House with proportional representation, not misrepresentation, and abolish the Senate. And you know what? I don't think I'm in favor of all of those, but I'm certainly in favor of most of them. And somebody decided to put up a list, and I ended up calling them out and then didn't really do the homework that I'd planned to do for that. But they responded to that pull list with this meme right here. The DSA platform: hate anything and everything to do with Israel and blame them for being invaded. Also blame Ukraine for being invaded. Medicare for all, but don't tell anyone in the DSA you have absolutely no clue how to ever achieve it or what it might cost. Abolish prisons, abolish the presidency, abolish the Senate, abolish the Electoral College, but don't tell anyone in the DSA that it requires a 3/4 vote of all the states and has zero chance of ever being done. No deportation of foreign nationals convicted of murder, rape, and other felonies. Tuition-free college, nationwide rent control, public ownership of essential industries like power, agriculture, and energy companies. But don't tell anyone in the DSA that there's as much chance of that happening as there is of Mamdani being elected Miss Congeniality. Oh yeah, everybody gets a pony. Now, I responded to this by saying that that is a ridiculous straw man that is more absurd than anything in their platform. And I think my response was both measured and accurate as fuck, because there's nothing in every one of these is like cartoonish. So like hate anything and everything to do with Israel. No, I hate the current Israeli government and the genocide that they're perpetrating. Um, but I don't blame them for being invaded. I don't blame them, and I'm not supporting the terrorists in any way. I'm in favor of free Palestine, and for war crimes and atrocities to be punished, whether they're committed by terrorist organizations or extended ongoing actions by the countries that want to use those terrorist actions to justify attempting to exterminate another group of people. I don't hate anything and everything to do with Israel. I also don't blame Ukraine for being invaded. Um, it's weird because I think this comes from the DSA wanting to reduce military spending. And so they're like, oh, but that would be abandoning Ukraine. I don't know enough to know who's saying what about Ukraine, but Medicare for all, but don't tell anyone you have no idea how to ever achieve it. Well, actually, there are viable paths to something like Medicare for all. And, I didn't do a ton of research. And I remember Jovan and I called into Jovan's show and he was trying to school me on communism and why I should be potentially a communist or supporting that. And the thing that we agreed on is that while there are principles there that are great, communism is utterly impractical unless it is global. Because as long as there's, some capitalist regime out there, they'll just take over again. And so it has to be kind of an elimination of everything other than that. And so I don't know what the viable path is. I don't know what is or isn't achievable. But I will say I'm not in favor of abolishing prisons. I may or may not be in favor of abolishing the presidency. I'm almost certainly in favor of abolishing the Senate. I would like a House with proportional representation. Um, you know, um, I definitely am in favor of abolishing the Electoral College and have been for ages. I'm aware of the vote that's required. Whether or not I'm in favor of something doesn't tell us whether or not it's viable, but it's certainly not viable as long as the naysayers and propagandists are just sitting there going, oh, you think you can do this? Yeah, none of us think we can do it right now because there's people like you standing in the way. So we either need to change your mind, or find some other path. Uh, you know, go around you, go through you by changing your mind. Those seem to be the primary options. No deportation of foreign nationals, which is really weird because I don't know about the DSA. I didn't see anything in their platform that said anything like this. As a matter of fact, I didn't see like anything in their platform that looked like half of this. But I'm certainly in favor of deporting violent criminals who aren't citizens, but also there may be other options. Tuition-free college, yeah. Yeah, I'd like an educated populace. I'm tired of living amongst the stupidest people in history who have the greatest access to the greatest information and the fastest and easiest methods by which to verify the reliability of information. And somehow or another, we're back to flat Earth, and Mr. Beast has got a new currency and he's going to give you $2,500 if you just go log in with your bank details and make a $200 deposit. Stupidity. Public ownership. Yeah, that's of essential industries. Yeah, that's social stuff. And the crack about Mamdani being elected Miss Congeniality, you know what? I wouldn't put anything past him. He's got riz. He's gregarious. He's pretty congenial. And there are massive things that I'm going to massively disagree with him about, but I wouldn't put it past him. But in the end, when you say something like that, and when you say, "Oh yeah, everybody gets a pony," you're definitely strawmanning. It's not an exaggeration on my part that you did not in any way look at these positions and say, "Oh yeah, there's some good there somewhere. There's some good idea there." that definitely did not happen. And it was absurd for this person to think that it did and believe that it did. Wrapping up real quick. I went to NanoCon. It was an expensive trip, expensive gas, but it was a great event. If you didn't get to go, you missed out. I drove around 30 hours, 14 in one shot on the way there, and 16 in two stages over 2 days on the way back. When I got back, I paid my utility bill, which, hey, it's August in Texas, and that means $845 in a utility bill, which is $100 more than it was last year. My health insurance has gone up 50%, so that's an extra 500 and some odd dollars a month. I paid $300 for gas, just for that trip alone, and I have to wait until tomorrow to pay my healthcare premium, which has gone up, because if I tried to pay it and my utilities, it would have been over the daily spending limit. And so I'm kind of wondering, what can you afford? I mean, I watched TikToks of people earlier today posting them opening their paychecks, saying what they earned over what period of time, and then running through their bills. Anybody making less than $15 was nearing dire straits, desperately couldn't live alone or take care of a family, and they had, they were at levels of poverty or near poverty that were barely worth fighting for, but they do, and they do it because there's still some shred of hope and dignity, and people desperately don't want to give up. And that is both our strength and our undoing. Because one of the things I think we need to learn is that we shouldn't give up on us, but we definitely need to start giving up on some things. We need to start giving up on at least the worst corporate billionaire oligarchy levels of capitalism. And that means actual changes. We need to give up on broken election systems. We need to give up on the social media that is spreading lies and misinformation and AI slop all day, every day to everybody. So somebody's going to ask, hey, how did the Democratic Socialists of America propose to pay for their sweeping social and economic programs? Well, you're talking about things like universal health care, debt cancellation, federal jobs guarantees, and most of it has to do, is paid for through aggressive wealth taxes on top earners and large corporations. And for example, we're spending, I think we spent about $37 billion on the Iran war so far in 5 months. So that's going to be, and that's just the DoD expenses. The estimates are that the total cost over those 5 months are between 100 and $150 billion when you consider the just the attrition that occurs through ammo depletion and all those things, and force readiness changes and all that. We've got soaring gas prices, soaring food prices, inflation, and these things are costing Americans, on average, or maybe it's not average, but the last stat I saw was like $1,100 extra per year, and I'm like, I spend that much extra over a couple of years ago, almost every 2 months. And yet I'm in better shape than a lot of people. I mean, I've got electricity, I've got food, not alone. I have home, I have friends, I have people who care about me, and I have you guys here. And I'm like, to me, I don't care if there are some things on the DSA platform that I'm not in agreement on, or some things that I don't think they have a shot in hell of doing, even over the next 50 years, if they were to gain control of everything. I like the fact that they have good things on there, even if some of them are pie in the sky, even if some of them are going to be as expensive for us. Would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to the DoD for this war in Iran, or would you rather be spending $37 billion to Or would you rather that money go towards education? Would you rather go toward healthcare? Would you rather go towards improving our nation? I know how I'd rather have it spent. And what I'm more convinced of than the notion that, oh, this platform is perfect and great and yeah. What I'm more convinced of than that is that it's way better than giving in to the fascist right. It's way better than voting for Sarah Palin, Bill. And by the way, it's not like you elect some DSA folks and instantly everything changes. These things require cooperation and incremental changes. It's going to take time. If you're still desperate, I want to bleed the last little bits out of capitalism before it goes away. You still got time. Even if we elected nothing but DSA folks, you still got time. You still got time to make it rich. And then you can take all that money you got and you can go out to Polymarket and you can gamble on exactly when the DSA is going to fail, exactly when the left-leaning folks are going to bankrupt us, because it's the left-leaning folks who consistently improve the economy and the right-leaning folks who consistently fuck it all up. Please join me in welcoming tonight's guest from End of Species, Jeff. Hey, man.
Hey, I'm excited, and you got me fired up. But first, I'm going to drop a joke mine. We'll see if it works.
Awesome.
Dibs. We'll see if it works. I don't know. Maybe it'll come to fruition later. Yeah, I'm excited to join you here. I hope people call in and, more importantly, give us their evidence for God or their religion or whatever. So I'm joining you in that.
Yeah.
I think I want to ask you a question. If you were one of Bill Maher's joke writers, like he's really bad at like delivering his joke writers' jokes, and you saw that there's a group that wants them to have better pay and better benefits and all that stuff, and he goes, I would vote for Sarah Palin before I voted for the people who want you to have more money, right? What would you think next time you're writing his jokes? Like,
well, I mean, I know I didn't write that one, but it's, I don't know. Like once upon a time, I think that could have been a joke written for him. Like, I'd sooner vote for Sarah Palin than this. As you know, like I'm gonna be hyperbolic and funny in that way to kind of make it clear, you know, how much I'm opposed to this. And now it's just sad. So I'm not a joke writer though.
but like, I mean, it is true that they want him to, like the DSA wants people to make more money and be able to make ends meet. And he has employees, he has workers. So if it was me and I'm in charge of writing his jokes and I'm the person driving him around and I'm the person, like all the people around him that are laborers, that like, what are y'all thinking right now working for Bill Maher, knowing that he don't give a fuck if you if you buy food, right? That's crazy.
And when you do that with some of them, when you say things like, you talk about how much more they have and how much more they make than the people they employ. What you get back is, yeah, but I'm creating jobs for all of them. They wouldn't have jobs if you know, or they wouldn't have this job for me. And I pay my employees far better than everybody else does. I hear that over and over again. You know, we make sure that our employees are well taken care of. Great. Why are you opposed to doing that for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
I get that, you know, we tend to take care of the people who are closest to us first. I'm almost always gonna be nicer in an argument with my mom than I am with random caller. I'm gonna make sure that, you know, Arden's taken care of. before I make sure that some of my other friends are taken care of. And then from there, it gets on out to where somebody I've never met somewhere else, I don't know that I've got much left to do for them. But just to pretend that there's not a systemic problem because you're not specifically doing this problem in your own house, but you're supporting the problem amplifying across the landscape. That's just really weird. Yeah, good point.
I mean, I'm sure Bill Maher avails himself of a fast food burger every now and again, or he goes to like the supermarket, or he goes to any other place where there are people that are not making ends meet. And I don't think I just don't like, just the optics are bad. Like, you could just as easily shut up and not say nothing, even if you don't believe it. Just shut up and don't look like an idiot, like a, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, the other thing, like, I was looking at the straw man list, and it just said tuition free schools. Like, that's a bad thing. Um, like it didn't even say anything like they want to bankrupt us with, no, it's just tuition free schools. And I know that tuition in in-state schools started coincidentally around the time that they started letting people that look like me go, because they used to be free. So to the person, I hope that person calls in, because that would be the question I asked them. It's like, why don't you want black people to go to school? Like, what's up with that? Yeah, I think tuition free schools would be dope. I think, like, you and I are going to have callers today talking about whatever thing. And one thing that is a common thread is that people don't know how to make arguments. They don't know how to research stuff. And school helps with that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the place you do that. So if you make it free, then you kind of have an incentive to, I don't know, get better at this kind of stuff.
Well, you
And that's
had an
not to,
example.
no, go
You had
ahead.
an example that you gave me right before we went live. And I'm wondering, maybe we should take your example, send it to Arden in chat, and put it up as a poll and see what percentage of people would pick one option over the other and see if maybe that drives some people to call in.
I like that. I
All
like
right.
that.
So while Jeff's getting that typed up and sent over to Arden in our chat, I'm going to remind everybody, hey, it's a call-in show. And generally, I like to talk about religion. That's where my expertise is. I have no expertise in anything, but I've been talking about religion the longest. And to the extent that I know anything, it's a bit about maybe logic and epistemology and how to take complex topics and make them approachable. And you might just say that the only reason I can do that is because I'm incredibly stupid and needed to dumb it down so I'd understand it. I don't care. You're not going to offend me by anything you have to say about me that way. But as much as I love um, defending religious topics and learning about religious topics, I'm not going to put any off limits areas tonight. We're gonna At the end of the show, we're gonna end up reading all the super chats, $5 or more, and if you have stuff you want to send in to force me to read or force Jeff to read, that's fine. But in between. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you've been banned, you're still banned. But if you haven't been banned and there's some topic that you wanted to ask about, as much as I hope we get people calling in to defend religious views, to explaining why we should believe in Jesus, why Trump is a good president, why MAGA is just going to win, how today's elections, um, are just not going to matter. That we're all going to get dog stomped, that it doesn't matter that Tallarico is leading Paxton. By the way, you guys are extra special in luck because not only did I drive that 30 hours over several days, and I mean, you can hear I'm hoarse, and I was gone and had all that stuff going on, and I got back and I haven't had a lot of sleep, and the governor of Texas outlawed hemp gummies. See, they'd already outlawed, anything that was weed related. And last Friday, they outlawed any and all hemp products. So the drink I might go down to the gas station to get that would last me like 4 days, uh, I can't get that anymore. And the hemp gummies that you go down to the gas station and pick up, um, they were great because they were, it was an end around. I admit it was a way around a loophole around their anti weed laws. But it's basically the same thing. And so I understand why they would want to include it here. But I was talking to Seth Andrews on the phone, and I was like, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to get to any sleep now because they basically just took away um, the medication that I would take at night to get sleep. So for those of you who want to call in and argue, today's a great day to do it. It's a bad day because Jeff's here and Jeff's way better on most of this stuff than I'm going to be. But it's a good day because I'm tired. I haven't had any sleep. I'm cranky. And the governor basically took away my fake weed. Um, and Seth was like, what's wrong with Texas? There's a dispensary all over the place up here in Oklahoma. And my brother's in Missouri. Dispensaries all over. Like, not just dispensaries where you can go in and get fake stuff. Weed. I don't like to smoke because I'm a former cigarette smoker. And so I don't like to smoke or vape. But if I go up to Missouri, I can just get a proper joint right down the street. And these countries, these states are states you couldn't pay me to live in once upon a time because their laws are so atrocious with regard to individual rights, taxation, LGBTQ rights. Um, and that's why we were looking at places like Illinois where there's good reptile laws. But yes, and if you had questions on snakes, I suppose I could do that. But what I'd rather you do is while we're waiting for the calls to queue up, I want to take a minute and have Jeff explain to everybody who doesn't know who he is and don't know about End of a Species, what's going on there. Who are you? What's your background? What do you know? Why should they call and argue with you? Because anybody who calls in and says, I only want to talk to Jeff, I'll just mute and play chess, guaranteed. I say guaranteed right up until I can't help myself, but y'all know when that is.
So yeah, I'm Jeff from End of a Species, and End of a Species is my entire raison d'etre. Like that's the thing that drives me. It's the one hypothesis I have that I hope I'm wrong about, and that is that our species, has had a great run. We did some cool stuff, but it's kind of over. I have a website, endofaspecies.com. I go into some detail, but I also like to point out where evidence of our decline is just too in your face to ignore. The most important thing is I think sophistry is going to be our downfall. It's the prefrontal cortex like rebelling against us and putting us in a place to fall for some of Wile E. Coyote's traps. But that's the hypothesis, right? I'm hoping in coming on these shows and talking with people that I'll be proven wrong. I haven't been convinced otherwise yet. So that's a thing. But I really have in the journey of like creating content and meeting people, I have met some really intelligent, really rational people that give me a little bit of hope. Not enough to overcome the hypothesis, but at least a little bit of hope. As far as my background, I'm just a guy. I'm just a Dominican guy who likes to know stuff. And, I like other people knowing stuff. And I don't like being conned. If you call in and you hear me say the words timeshare, that's a problem. That means that you done said something that put my Washington Heights flag on alert that something's amiss. I will say this, Matt, like you said that, we interrupt sometimes for clarity. That's like language is a funny thing. And if you use ambiguous language or if you are purposely evasive with your language, oftentimes that's a product of this new culture online of people wanting to gather W's. There's no W's when we're extinct. There's no W's when we're gone. So, and also nobody cares. So if you're very clear with your language, if you're 100% direct, if I ask a question or Matt asks a question and you just engage with it directly, we get a better understanding of your view. I get a better understanding of, like, maybe I'm wrong about something. And then, you know, we get to see if what you're saying is correct. So I'm not going to go too much further into like what End of a Species is. Endofaspecies.com, I did a lot of work to try to put all that information on there. And I'm constantly putting new stuff on there. Like every time I have an idea, I'll just grab my laptop and say, let me put this on there. Somebody asked about the 50,000 gold pieces. We may get to that. Did I tell you about the 50,000 gold pieces?
You have not.
So, okay, this is one bit of the lore. There is a slice of End of a Species called the God Bounty. Now, I'm an atheist like you, but I've hedged my bet because if the God as presented is real, then that's a problem. And so I have offered up 50,000 gold pieces. It has been matched by 2 other creators, so that's for a total of 150,000 gold pieces to anybody that can bring me the head of Yahweh on a silver platter. Initially, this bounty, we're not class traders. So initially this bounty included a lower bounty of 30,000 if you couldn't afford a silver platter, 30,000 if you brought the head on a plate that you got from Kohl's. But then somebody donated the silver platter. So now if all you have to do is produce the head of Yahweh, you get 150,000 gold pieces, and I get the greatest centerpiece for a Christmas dinner in history. So if you want to know more, that's on godbounty.com. Let's hunt this dude. Let's
I might have found an end around, by the way.
Ooh.
And that is, if Yahweh is real, then Yahweh could present directly or indirectly his own head on a platter, gather the money, and then use that for good things.
Yeah, but the probability of him gathering tithes and using them for any other thing other than what he's been using them for is very low. But he could do that. I
agree.
He could do that.
It'd be nice, though, if there was a God anywhere that would do anything good or do anything to demonstrate its existence. Because it seems that all we keep getting mostly is yahoos for Yahweh. And the yahoos come in and have the worst arguments, the least evidence, nothing particularly useful, don't seem to understand the basics of logic. Like I watched somebody who fancies themselves a debater get asked about or presented with a trilemma. And upon being presented with it, they were like, yeah, but is it true? Yeah, but is it true? And I'm like, wow, how dumb do you have to be to pass yourself off as somebody who argues for a living and understands logic and not know the basics about, hey, what is a trilemma and what are truth values? It's absolutely bizarre to watch people pretend like they know stuff when it's very clear they don't have the first clue and probably couldn't argue their way out of a wet paper sack or a tightly sealed jar.
Yeah, clearly trilemmas are not propositions. So just asking if it's true is like asking if jazz is pink, which is kind of silly.
If jazz is pink?
Yeah.
It might be to a synesthete, though.
Oh, true. Yeah.
And that's something possible. I need to look up. I suspect I already know the answer to this. By the way, if you know the answer to this in chat, you can type it up in chat and tag me. We have open lines, and I'm going to get ready to start taking calls here in a second. We've got at least one caller already in the queue or through the queue. 720-619-2288 is the number to call, or down below there's a link to call in studio. Remember, if you're calling in from your phone and you're on hold, you may have to tap your phone to wake it up, and then also tap the browser if you're calling through the web link there. Somebody in chat said, are there calls today? Well, what a weird question. Yes, there are. We're just not going to take them. Do you think that's what's happening? All right. So we've got our first caller who's queued up right now. And let's see if we can actually have an awesome conversation. The question, by the way, if you happen to know, is there consistency in the sensations that synesthetes of similar types share? So, for example, those who don't know synesthesia, it's like numbers might have a color or a taste, or there's a number of different sensory things that are associated with numbers of color. For somebody who has a numeric synesthesia, do all of them that associate colors with a number, is there any correlation between the colors that are associated, or does person A, person B, no known correlation between them? That's just an interesting thing. All right, here we go. You ready, Jeff?
Rocking and rolling.
All right, Devin is calling from Tennessee. Devin, theist pronouncing him. You think God's an awful God, but he still made a world where he had to be nailed to a cross. Well, hey, Davin, it's Davin, right? I said it wrong the first time.
No, yeah, you got it.
Okay, great.
It's Davin.
Yeah. Well, I think an awful God is like the way that I want you to be able to tell us what you actually think, because I don't know if in the screening it got shortened, because what the screening thing says is you think God's an awful God. Actually, I don't think God exists, but I think the character of God is awful. And then you said, but he still made a world where he had to be nailed to a cross, which I think means he's an awful God. What am I missing? Tell us what's going on.
Well, I guess my argument presupposes that Jesus is God, and that's not really what I want to change your mind on. I'm not trying to change your mind. I feel like the best argument, because I have problems with God as well. With my search for truth, I get more mad at the Holy Spirit and God than I do Jesus. I have more problems with them than Jesus, because I feel like Jesus, and I still believe Jesus is God, but Jesus, I put his heart where his mouth was, or his mouth where his heart was, whatever. Like I feel like Jesus died for me. I believe Jesus died for me, and I just, like, with my problems with God and the Holy Spirit, I still feel like at the end of the day, whatever problems I have and good questions I have that I don't understand about God, I still feel like he, died for me. And also, I think since Jesus submitted to the Father, I feel like whatever problems I have with the Father, I should, submit as well, following Jesus, since he obviously thought it was. And yeah, that's.
Okay. I have loads and loads of questions, and I just did a video about this the other day about trying to figure out which question to ask. And I think instead of asking any of them, I'm going to let Jeff ask first while I jot down my other ones.
Okay.
So I was actually just thinking about this week because I was reading John 3. I love this chapter, but specifically verse 16, which is super famous, right? And I think that's kind of what you're referring to, right? God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's a famous con job. And I'll tell you why. Like I want you to think of, I don't know if you have a significant other or spouse or someone you really, really love in your life, and think about the last time that you were on a date or in a romantic situation, and just think if there's any scenario where you think, you know what would make this more romantic, um, a, a crown of thorns on one of our heads or on somebody's head, anybody's head, like that doesn't seem right, right?
Yeah.
Um,
No, I mean, that's one of my problems. Do you want to continue your thought, or can I just say something real quick?
yeah, no, go for it.
Well, because that's what I find. So that's one of my main struggles with God is I don't know how he could, because I do believe Jesus like voluntarily sacrificed himself, but I still, that's one of my problems with God is I, I, that's where I struggle with how he could be good if, he would allow a reality where his beloved son, would have to die. So I think I'm following you so far.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you do realize that doesn't sound like that sentence doesn't sound like it's helping the case, the God is good case, right?
No, I agree. But I mean, I could make my case for why I still believe besides the fact, but I'm just trying to say I agree. Like I'm just saying that is a personal struggle, but I think the fact that Jesus still submitted to God, I feel like that's a good reason to submit. Even, yeah. But
I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean. Like, you think that the fact that Jesus submitted to God is a good reason for us to submit?
yes, because if he was willing to lay his life down and submit to God, just because I don't believe that is a loving, like, again, I don't get how a loving father would make a reality where his son would have to be sacrificed. But I feel like since I do believe Jesus is the Son of God and lived a perfect life and voluntarily laid it down, I feel like that's a good reason to submit to God. If
I'm sensing that you're kind of making a distinction between Jesus and God. And if I was to like follow this along, I would say that the best conclusion is that we should make it so that Jesus didn't die in vain and go after the person who created a reality where he had to die. Like that's what, like if I'm taking out any religion like thought from it and I say, hey, this person laid down their life so that this other entity wouldn't go after me, I would say, well, then let's go after that entity so that they didn't die in vain. They're maybe their defenses are down. I don't know. But it most certainly doesn't paint either one of them as good. Like if Jesus laid down his life and expects submission, then that's just manipulation. Um, and then the God that made that scenario is just, I would say, like an asshole. I don't know. I think that's the best term I could think of.
I'm kind of confused about a
I mean,
handful of things, Davin. It's so like, do you believe Jesus is God?
yes,
Okay. Let's imagine you weren't God, but God expected you to sacrifice your weekend in order to save the whole world. Would you do that?
yes,
So do you think there's something particularly special about sacrificing your weekend?
not really, not particularly.
Is there anything special about it if you get to be God before and after you give up your weekend? Because
Wait, can you say that part again?
I'll give up my next weekend right now if I get to be God after the weekend's over. And I wasn't even God before it started.
I'll be honest, I would give up my weekend if I just got GTA 6 when the weekend was over. Like, you don't even have to give me God.
But so, like you say, Jesus did this, Jesus did that, Jesus lived a perfect life. First of all, even if I grant that Jesus lived a life, I don't think we have any good information to confirm what kind of life he lived. And the type of things that are attributed to him in the Bible, I don't think come anywhere near perfection. But let's just say he was overall a pretty good dude. He was kind of shitty on things like divorce, but he was okay on some other stuff. And then he gave up a weekend in order to save somebody. For what reason, I don't know. What reason do you have to think that any of the things that you believe about Jesus are actually true?
So I'll say that. I mean, I think this is a good point that, when Jesus is going to the cross, he tells his disciples, like, it's better for you if I go so that the spirit of truth, will come into the world. I think that, I mean, I have reasons to believe, like, I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question? Sorry. Or can you,
I think the question is like, how do you know that any of what you read about Jesus is true, like is accurately depicting what actually happened?
well, I just feel like I experience and see the spirit of truth that is in the world. Like, Jesus now has this bar, whether he existed or not. Like, there, by Jesus is just this story. That's why I'm a believer, is because I think it's just like the best story. But I think that's
I'm even more confused.
like how.
I say that because you say you see truth, but then you go from Jesus being God as the truth to Jesus being a good story. I'm not even convinced it's a good story. How is it a good story to say, we're going to keep the Old Testament laws, we're going to keep the misogyny up, we're not going to do anything to change our views on slavery or genocide, we're still only going to allow divorce in the case of fornication? I don't see what's good about that. I don't see what's good about a story that suggests you were born mired in inherited sin and guilt from generations before, and you're so atrocious that God had to come down and become a sacrifice to himself to make a loophole for rules he's in charge with, because you're so shit, and so is everybody else. I don't see what's good about that story. I would think a better story.
I think.
Look ahead.
Well, I think it's less that humans are so shit, and it's more that God is so holy. I mean, I don't know a lot of like terms, but I do know like the divine dilemma. It's like, how can a just God like forgive sin
You're talking
or
about the
be so
Euthyphro
holy
dilemma.
but still?
You're talking about the
What was
Euthyphro
that?
dilemma. You're talking about the Euthyphro dilemma. If God is all knowing and all
Okay.
good, then why is, if God wants to stop evil and he knows everything, then he knows about the evil. And if he's all good, then he wants to stop the evil, then whence cometh evil?
Um, Hold on, I'm looking it up. That's not. My keyboard's dead. That's not exactly the divine dilemma that I'm. I mean, from. Well, okay, I'm not going to use my laptop, but my point is, like, I have questions, I have problems with God too,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
and
sorry. You're right. This is how tired I am. First of all, I got to correct and I got to apologize. That's
uh,
not the Euthyphro dilemma. Euthyphro dilemma is something good because God commands it, or does God command it because it's good?
I
That's
think that's a good way to put it.
that's the wow. Where is my brain, Jeff? And what did I misrepresent?
No, that's accurate.
But the other one wasn't.
No, the other one, that was the problem of evil. I think what you were.
Yeah, it was just a generic problem of evil, not
Yeah.
Euthyphro dilemma. So okay, we've now corrected that. Please continue. I'm sorry, Devin.
Okay. Well, so no, you're good. I'm not used to any of this, so bear with me too. But my whole point is, well, the point I was making was I think it's less that humans are so evil and shitty. When again, I think it's still the sin that's the problem, not humans, because we weren't made like this. But I think it's more that God is holy. Like I feel like I think that's the main point. And I'm not trying to.
What do you mean by holy? Like, what does that mean?
To me, it means he's completely separate. He's in his own category. He's and like and righteous too. I feel like that's important. But holy, just like good, just like I feel like that's kind of what I mean. I don't have like a.
So if God murders everybody except for 8 people, it's just automatically good, or does it have no moral value, or what?
Well, like Scripture says, I feel like there's some level. I do believe that whatever God does, just because it's His nature, it is good, and I think we can talk about.
So the problem with that is, you're deciding that whatever God does must be good.
Mm-hmm.
What are you using as your standard of good? Because it sounds like you're using whatever God does as the standard of good.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
That's what.
Do you think there's also a Satan and that one's evil?
Yeah.
How did you determine which one was good and which one was evil?
Well, I'd say the one that died for me was the good one, and I'd say the one that leads me to be more evil and hateful is the bad one.
Okay, so well, first of all, I don't think either of them exist. I don't think either of them are leading you to be hateful, but where's your evidence that there's a Satan? By the way, you're already presuming that Satan is leading you to be hateful rather than good. Who kills more in the Bible, God or Satan?
I mean, I'm not sure.
It's not even close.
I'd guess God.
Yep. What does Satan do that you find to be wrong or immoral in the Bible? I mean, a lot of people think that the serpent in the garden, even though it's never called Satan at all, they think that was Satan. Did the serpent in the garden lie or tell the truth?
He told half-truths.
He told the truth. What was the half-truth?
Yeah,
what was the
half-truth? He didn't. Well, that he said that they would die, but they didn't die immediately.
No, you're mistaking it. God said they would die. The serpent said they would not die. And they did not die. Where's the half-truth?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, okay, that is right. I mean, but he does say like you will be like gods.
Yeah.
My point is
God
like
say?
I know he didn't lie. Like,
not only did he not lie, that's not a half-truth either. Not only did the serpent said, God knows that you will be like him. And what does God say later in the story? Genesis 3, chapter 22, or Genesis chapter 3, verse 22, God says, behold, the man has become like us to know good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, if they didn't know good and evil before they ate the fruit, how could they have known it was wrong to eat the fruit? Maybe eating the fruit was the ultimate good, to know the difference between good and evil rather than be oblivious to it. Certainly wouldn't be just to punish people for doing something they couldn't have known was wrong, would it?
Well, but he commands them not to eat from it. So that's how
they would. So he commanded them to do something. How would they know it was wrong to disobey his commandment if they don't know good from evil?
No, I've never thought of that. I think
also he commanded them to do something, and then somehow this serpent that's described as the most cunning is the one that they interact with that tells them to do this stuff. So, like, I think they were put in me personally, I think they were put in a no-win situation. and wouldn't even have a chance to parse what's a lie. But yeah, I don't think it's fair to even have them, like, expect them to decide to do the right thing.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, I'm
But
still stuck because, like, would you agree that everything you're referencing, the only information you have is what it claims in the Bible? Do you have anything beyond the Bible to affirm that any of this stuff is true?
does it, like, I don't know if it matters that much if I do or not. Maybe
So you don't
you
care
can
whether or
explain to me
not
why
what you
that.
believe is true?
No, I do, but I'm just saying I don't think I need historical. Not I mean, not to say that I'm like totally ignorant or don't see like
Gullible?
no. I
So I'm
think
wondering,
the evidence
so would you agree?
again.
Like, there's a bunch of books for different religions, and they make a bunch of claims.
Mm,
And these are extraordinary claims, things of miracles, things that tie to the supernatural. If we don't have any good evidence to determine which of them, if any of them, are correct, why would you ever pick one?
Well, okay, so I think life is the extraordinary claim. I think consciousness, awareness, and I think the best story. That's again, I don't need historical. I think the story in itself. Not to, and I think not to say that there's
You
not
think the
good
best
evidence for Jesus.
explanation, you think the best
Yes.
explanation is that some being built a man out of clay and breathed magical consciousness into it? That's the best explanation?
Well, I mean, you can
By the
put
way,
it in ways that like really.
I just want to correct one thing. Life is not the
Okay.
extraordinary claim. Life is the thing that we're trying to explain with the claims. So, like, life is the thing that we see, and we're trying to explain that, and then Matt's question. So, like, I just wanted to make sure that was the thing.
No, yeah. Um, but I still think not that. Again, you. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I don't think anyone can, because I know you can't think of a better love story than. Again, there's no other God that like laid aside their glory. And again, my main point with calling was the
That's not
fact
true, though,
that
Davin.
with
Yeah,
all the
that's not true.
Davin, Davin,
what
you have no
what
evidence that this God did anything, has ever done anything, let alone laid aside anything. And the story that you're pointing to doesn't even claim to do it. I can think of a more beautiful story right off the bat. I'm God. I create everybody. I give them the freedom, and I don't punish them for disobedience and require blood sacrifice and barbecue to forgive them. I just forgive them.
But again, I think that's not understanding God's holiness, and because again, I don't know why there has to be a blood sacrifice, but I do know
There doesn't.
that.
If I'm God, there doesn't. How do you know I'm not more holy than your God?
Well, there's not stories, a whole Bible religion, based around you.
That's
I
what
mean, that's just
determines how
my.
holy you are. So you also think
No,
that
no, no. You just.
the other religions have holy figures.
No, I'm just saying that's why I don't believe in you more than Jesus, is because
The
I
thing
think
is,
there's again.
the thing you're missing, Davin, is that I'm so holy. I want to keep a low profile. I don't need people to suck up to me. I don't need them to give me their money. I don't need them to tell me how awesome I am every Sunday or every Saturday. I don't need them to bow down in deference to me. I want them to live their lives. And so I stay out of the way. Wouldn't that make me more holy than God?
Well, what if those people are steeped in sin and there's an evil person, like this evil
What's
force
sin?
trying to keep them from.
What's What's sin? Well, first of all, am I more powerful than the evil force? I could just eliminate it, right?
Yes.
Why would I
And
allow an
yeah.
evil force to hide and deceive them into doing wrong? But at the end of the day, if sin is just doing something I don't like, I can forgive them. If I can forgive them through blood sacrifice, I can forgive them just by default. I'm the best God you've ever heard of.
Look, I got nephews that sometimes I babysit. They're young, right? And sometimes they wanna wrestle with Uncle Jeff, or they want to fight with Uncle Jeff, and they come up and they start swinging on me. I don't feel it. Like I'm not gonna say, hey, this person's trying to attack me. They're little kids. They can't like budge me. So I just let them get their energy out, and then that's cool. That God could do that. God could be like, hey, these people are offending me. It's like nothing to me, like whatever, and move about his day.
No, no,
Why is God so
I
weak?
get.
I mean, so Davin, I don't know if you know this. I'm a former Christian who was studying to
I
be a
didn't know that.
minister, and after learning a bit more about logic and evidence and epistemology and things like that, I realized I didn't have a good reason to believe stuff, and the Christianity that I was steeped in, and still investigate, still study, still read the Bible. I'm not nearly as knowledgeable as some of my friends, but I know enough. And what I found is once I started looking into what the Bible has to say with good standards of evidence and good critical thinking skills, all of it fell apart and became comical and sad and evil. Right down to, for example, I just did a video recently on the author of Luke Acts. Um, the gospel that's attributed to Luke and the book of Acts were written by the same person. It's pretty much a two-part book, universally accepted or nearly universally accepted that way by scholars. And they both start with the same thing, and they start with a "trust me, bro" statement. Hey, I looked into all the evidence behind this, so you don't have to, which is antithetical to skepticism and critical thinking. Um, if Jesus spent this time proving to the disciples that he had really come back from the dead and that he was alive and all this other stuff, so much so that the author of Luke Acts just writes it down and states as a de facto fact, um, why wouldn't God just directly provide that evidence to everyone? Why would Jeff and I have to sit here and say, hey, what evidence do you have? And have Christian after Christian after Christian after Christian say, I really don't have any evidence to do this. I can't show you that he was crucified and stuck in a tomb and resurrected. We just only have the stories. I can't show you that there's a heaven. I can't show you that there's substitutionary atonement. I can't show you any of these things. It's just a matter of faith. And I'm wondering, is there any position that someone couldn't accept and just say it's just a matter of faith? Like, I could believe any religion. I could believe I'm smarter and better than anybody. Just take it on faith. I already believe I'm better than any God I've ever read about or heard about. I'm not just more moral, I'm smarter. And what's strange is these beings don't do anything to stop me. They don't do anything to show they're real. They leave people like you hanging out. Like, you have an obligation under 1 Peter 3:15 to be prepared at all times to give a reason for the faith that's within you. That's a command. It goes right alongside the commands in the Gospels to go ye therefore unto all nations, spreading the gospel, etc., and to not be ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You have a duty to give an answer for all of this. I did too. And I took that duty so seriously that when I utterly failed to be able to demonstrate and meet that duty, and I discovered that it was seemingly impossible, that made it clear that if there is a God, and if the Bible is a representation of that God, he is evil and setting you all up to be embarrassed and look foolish.
No, yeah, I hear you. And again, I still just feel like that again, there's a I will say that like I've been I've been watching a lot of like debates lately and learning more about what these other like unbelievers think. I mean, I could name names of people I've been watching, but like I've been watching like hours because I do find like it's like I said, I have problems with God and the Holy Spirit, and
So
but
you
I
have
still
problems with
think again like
two-thirds of the Trinity. Why don't you have a problem
uh,
with the main one?
because I feel like he died for him. Like I believe he died for me.
Yeah, but okay. You really like Jesus and you're confused as to what to do about the fact that you're not as big a fan of God or the Holy Spirit when they're supposed to all be the same,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Let's assume for a second that Jesus voluntarily gave up a weekend for you. Why
Well,
is that a
wait,
good
can I just
thing?
stop you with that?
Sure,
Well, because you keep saying, he gave up a weekend, but he gave
correct.
up, perfect he gave up perfect communion. He gave up paradise to,
No, he
one
didn't.
pastor said, like, he decided,
Where's Jesus right now, according to Christianity?
the, the right hand of God, on the throne, the right hand of the throne of God
Where's paradise?
with God, with his Father.
So how did Jesus give up paradise?
Well, because he took on the sins of humanity, and,
For how long?
that's
For how
three
long?
hours, but
For less than a
3 hours.
weekend. So how is it inaccurate of me to say he gave up a weekend? I say he gave up a weekend, and you're like, he gave up paradise. And then I ask a couple of simple questions, and you just defeated your own argument. What did Jesus do, and why did he need to do it?
Well, that again, I don't understand why he needed. I mean, I mean, I have my own problems with again why it needed to happen, but I still feel like my argument mainly is the fact that he submitted. He voluntarily gave up his life. Um,
Sounds like a little
but
bitch to me.
again, I still well,
He actually,
I
he
still
did
feel like
worse. He did worse than that because here's a person who supposedly has all the secrets of everything. And when he comes down, he says, like Matthew 6:25, don't worry about what you have to eat. If you follow those instructions today, you're unhoused, right? Like objectively unhoused. If you don't worry about what you have to eat or the clothes on your back, you're losing your house, right?
no, I believe, like it says,
Well,
like
just look,
when Jesus is talking to
just be honest.
okay, yeah.
Listen, just be honest. We're in the world that we live in right now. If you go day to day without worrying about where your next meal is coming from, and you're not privileged, you're going to starve, correct?
I think prayer helps with that, but
Unless you're telling me there's no Christians anywhere in any unhoused community, you're telling me there are no Christians in the global South, you're telling me there are no Christians in any place where they have um, uh, food insecurity, there are no Christians in those places that are starving.
no, there definitely are.
Yeah, so if they stop worrying about where their next meal is coming from, they are going to starve, right?
And yes, in certain situations, yeah.
Okay, in
Yeah.
Matthew 7, when Jesus says, "Don't give what is holy to dogs," and then a mere 8 chapters later sees a woman who wants to heal her daughter, and because she's a different ethnicity, calls her a dog. That's like proto-racism, right?
I have listened to I've looked into that a little bit, but I still feel like
Look, I'll just add to it that one of the last things that Jesus says in the whole Bible in Revelation 22. Now, I didn't want to add this because this isn't while he's alive. I just want to focus on while he's alive. One of the last things is he just doubles down and says, outside are the dogs, yada, yada, yada. Like, he's doubling down on it. So even if he didn't mean it that way, the fact that somebody could read that today and say, oh, whoever's not one of the chosen people, they get the crumbs from the master's table. That a reasonable person can get that interpretation, right?
Yeah.
And so in the time that he had, instead of saying, hey, hey, even if they're not Israelite.
But he also tells the parable of, about like inviting these people to the supper, the marriage supper, and people give excuses why they can't come, and he says, like, go and tell everyone. So there's also stories of, God inviting the lowly and all that. And so, I mean, that's what I'd say to that example, but I mean, continue your thing. But
do you know, so there's this theme of like the grafting in of the Gentiles. And if you look from Deuteronomy to the stuff that Jesus says to the stuff that Paul says, that it's just to make Israel jealous. They're like, the Gentiles are like a mistress. It's fine, right? But it doesn't change the fact that one of my gripes with the Bible is that a terrible person can just grab it like a Rorschach test and say, oh, the stuff that I'm doing is righteous because it says it right here. Just like a good person can read it and take the same Rorschach test and go, hey, I should feed people that are hungry, right? But it still leaves room for those terrible people to do the terrible stuff. Like, they can read the Bible and they'll cite it. The Bible says, do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're doing terrible things with the Bible endorsing it all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus, being on earth for however long he had, could have been very, very clear. Hey, no, don't do, like Matt, I've seen you for years say the same thing. Why didn't he say don't do slavery? Why didn't he say don't do a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff that we do, and he never said don't do that.
One of the weird things for me, and after this, I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate, but I think we've given you a lot to think about, Devin, and we might be close to wrapping up because I've got a couple other theists online, but there's a difference between what the God portrayed in the Old Testament seems to want and care about than what the God of the New Testament seems to want and care about. And it's either grand or subtle, depending on which verses you pick or anything else. And so you, like Jesus, and you got some problems with God and the Holy Spirit. And I hope you work some of that out, because it's because the doctrine is bullshit. And it is because these things are completely irreconcilable. And it's because the Trinity is an absolutely nonsensical idea that no one can actually properly make sense of. And yet you've been given handfuls of, oh, it's because of his holiness, and oh, he did this, and oh, there's this. The God of the Old Testament told people what good was. It's one of my favorite passages, because while the Old Testament God didn't really speak too much about an afterlife, the details of whether or not there's an afterlife within Judaism are going to vary and be different, because the Bible portrays it as when people die, they went to sleep with their fathers, not that they were still existing or awake or suffering or anything like that. That stuff just didn't really exist in any strong sense in Judaism. So that's why it's kind of like open. But what God supposedly says, or the message God conveys in Micah 6:8, is that what God considers goodness is fairness, loving kindness, and loyalty, and humbly obeying God. And that is way better in its simplicity and directness than believe in me and, repent and blah, 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 blah. But they're not that different. And here's the big problem. I have no evidence that there is a God or that Jesus is God. I have no idea what a God wants. I have stories from people about what they claim God wants. I have storybooks like the Bible where there's claims that God wants. And I could go with Micah 6:8, but even if I did, and I was fair and loving and kind and loyal, although I have a problem with loyalty, where the loyalty is to an individual rather than to a concept like the truth or freedom. But then we get to that part where it says, humbly obey God. How can I possibly humbly obey God when I have no idea what a God wants of me? No God has ever spoken to me, sent any message, conveyed any list of directions that I could verify were actually from a God, let alone the same God that said I needed to obey. How do I solve that problem?
Well, I mean, I feel like he sent his son, and and sent the spirit of truth out, and I feel like Jesus exemplified the path that we're all supposed to live. He is the way, the truth, and the life. So that, I mean,
It's like you didn't hear a thing I said.
no, I'm earnestly listening. You said the question you asked was like, if God hasn't spoken to you or it has made it so difficult and all this, like, how can you like respond faithfully? And
How do I know?
right, is that kind of,
how do I know what God wants of me? And your answer was, well, he came down and sacrificed. I don't know that any God came down and sacrificed. I certainly didn't ask it. I certainly don't feel that I deserve it, but I have no reason to think it's true. And until some God gives me 5 minutes of their time to explain what they want and expect of me, they're not deserving of any of my time.
well, he gave
Real
you
quick,
3 hours.
I want you to know what I just heard. Like Matt asked you
Once again, he
how.
went right back to it.
Yeah, I want you, because Matt said, "How do I
No,
know
yeah, help
what
me know.
God?" Yeah, like, how do I know what God wants of me? And you said he died for my sins. Imagine if you asked me what I want for dinner, and I got in my car and drove away. Do you think that answers that question?
No,
I'm only saying that because I'm
but
hungry.
I don't
But
get.
like, if my
Yeah.
wife messaged me right now and say, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" and I just turned my camera off, like she's watching the stream, do you think that
Well,
I'd
how does that
given
relate to
her?
Jesus?
Well, the question was, look, listen to the question. What does God want
Okay.
of me? And you said he died for my sins. He just drove off. Like, that's not telling me what he wants.
Well, but
I'm
he
trying
sent
to
the
figure
spirit
out,
of truth out.
how do you know he sent a spirit of truth out?
Because we're talking about it, like whether all these problems, like
No,
at the end of the day,
I'm
there's
sorry.
still.
I'm sorry. How
No,
does the
yeah,
fact that we can
yeah.
how does the fact that we can talk about a spirit of truth prove that God sent a spirit of truth out?
Well, because it's the very idea that a perfect man laid his life down. Like, whether it's just think of it as a story. Like, whether you hate the story or not, whether you think it's true, that the truth that story, because like before Jesus, it's inconceivable to think of these things that we're talking about, and now there's a bar set that we're
I'm going to
talking.
do you a
That's
huge
kind of what I'm saying.
favor.
And
I'm
no,
going to
do
do
it.
you
Yeah.
a huge favor because I appreciate you calling
Okay.
and being the first caller.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I appreciate
you're
your
in
time,
way over your
and
head and you are literally not making any sense at all. When I ask, how do I tell X or how can we verify X? You seem to go with it just must be. It's just absurd to think otherwise. It seems like you have no way of understanding how to tell the difference between whether a claim is true or not. And under that model, you have no more reason to be a Christian than you would be to be a Muslim or a Hindu or anything else. And so when I'm asking you,
Well, I
how do
do
we know
because
this is true?
in those
No, you
stories,
don't. No,
well,
you don't.
in those stories, no one.
Stories don't demonstrate the truth of the supernatural. Stories are the claim. You need evidence to support the claim. What do you got?
I mean, I get what you're saying, but just to answer that one, or just to why I believe in Jesus, because I don't know any other story where God comes
Good.
down to earth.
Thank
and
you.
lays it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. When we walked out of Spider-Man Brand New Day yesterday, Arden said it was her favorite Spider-Man. And for her, the stories of Spider-Man have the sort of righteousness that she thinks people see in the various God stories. And that some people need those stories. I'm not somebody who needs those stories. Matter of fact, I find story-driven concept conveyance annoying as fuck. But for the people who do need and value that, it's a story. I got into an argument at NanoCon with someone who was saying his girlfriend was Presbyterian, and that it's just a story for her that helps make her a better person. And I'm wondering, how does it make them a better person? And does it make them a better person than me or Jeff? What is it about the Christian story? I mean, I see that you get value out of it. And you seem to think that you're justified in believing it because you haven't heard another story that you like better. But I care about what's true, not about whether I heard a good story or whether some story had a moral that had value to me. Plenty of stories have taught me things, but that doesn't mean the story is true. It doesn't mean I need to worship it.
But if that story is true, then if it is true, if the truth that story embodies, then you should worship it.
Yes.
What I get from it is
maybe, except that I'm opposed to worship, and I think that any being that expected worship would be by definition undeserving of it. However, the time to believe that it's true and decide whether or not you're going to worship is after it's been demonstrated that it's true. Because until then, it's just a story like all the other stories that you're dismissing. You're not a Muslim. You're not a Hindu. You're not a Scientologist. You're not a Mormon. Well, you might be. But how do you tell which one of those you should bet on?
Because I bet on the God that died for me. Like,
you don't know. That's the point, Devin. Well, you do not know that there's any God that ever died for you or did anything for you. What are you going to do when you find out that one of the Hindu gods has you ready to account for your life and you're like, oh, I picked the God that I thought died for me? What are you going to do then?
Well, I don't believe in the Hindu God, so not to. I mean, I get your point, but
you
are being completely circular. I'm going to drop out of this, Jeff. All yours.
I'm just going to leave you with this, Devin. I'm just going to leave you with this.
Okay.
You don't believe that Jesus is the only God that died for you. I know that. That's the elephant in the room. I know you don't believe that. And the reason that I know you don't believe that is because of the answer to this question. Have you ever done just a Google search for gods that died by sacrificing themselves for humanity? Have you ever done that Google search? Ever?
Nope.
Just be honest with me. Yeah, correct.
Nope.
That's right.
Nope.
So you don't know that. So you might think it. You might be willing to hold on to that thought, but you haven't really like looked. And when I talk about a simple Google search, that's like the bare minimum in current year. It's the absolute bare minimum that you can do to like investigate. So it seems like you just are holding on to a thing that you like. I wouldn't even, it's like most philosophers would say like you have it's called a doxastic attitude, that you've accepted it, like you've been convinced. I don't even think that it's fair to say that you believe it. I think it's fair to say that you've adopted that thought. But I don't know that you've even given that thought a chance to test it, to like really say, hey, I'm convinced that this happened.
Well, I mean, I have not made that Google search, but I mean, Jesus dying, that's not the only sole reason. It's just reading scripture and
have you ever done a search for
learning
any
about
guides
Jesus.
that thought that you should love everybody?
Well, I'm sure there are, but that's what my point is. I don't feel like there's any other gods that wash, their servants' feet, their disciples' feet, that again died a gruesome, horrific, humiliating death.
I'm gonna just say this real quick for
sure
anybody who knows me that's listening. I'm not biting this bait. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to bite this bait because this call has gone on long enough. I'm not going to make any Jesus is gay references for y'all. It's not going to happen. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
All right. No, yeah, we can.
Devin, Devin, we're going to move on.
I appreciate.
Since you like pedicures so much, I suggest you go get one and stop being impressed by them.
Okay, I appreciate you, Matt, Jeff. God bless. Thank you.
God bless. Like parting shots. All right.
Spider-Man bless.
Spider-Man bless.
Can I just say one thing? Any atheists out there, if you give me a Spider-Man spoiler, it means you believe in the Transfiguration and you go to church every Sunday and you eat the Eucharist and you find it delicious and then you drink the wine and you really think it's blood. That's a fact.
I take it you haven't managed to see it yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, I will not be spoiling a thing, even though I had stuff spoiled for me. Hey, look, we got other callers, and we're really appreciative. Thank you so much, Devin, for calling in. I'm sorry we didn't get anywhere. So once again, we're looking for you to explain what it is you believe and why we should share that belief. And so some of that's going to have to require something other than, I just think it's true. Trust me, bro. I think it's unique or special. Because people could make the unique or special argument for many religions with equal or similar merit. There was a book, I guess it was a book and maybe a film. There was one we used to play years ago on the air, not here, but at the other place I worked. And it's called The God Who Wasn't There. I think it was Brian Fleming thing that he did. And I know that some of my friends and people I've worked with, they're in there. I think Sam Harris is in there. Richard Carrier's in there, stuff like that. And a lot of it has to do with mythicism stuff. And it goes through, and I think some of my best friends are mythicists. John Gleason, who's part of the network, mythicist. David Fitzgerald, who I've had on the show before, mythicist. I'm not. I think mythicism is an overstatement that is a mistake. It assumes more than I think it's actually able to demonstrate, and more than is necessary, because the burden of proof that Jesus was divine are on the theists who say he's divine. I shouldn't need to know anything about anything. And so the question then becomes, what evidence do you have that should convince any reasonable person of the claims you're making? It shouldn't be up to non-believers to start proving that your claims are false, because we run into this problem where some claims are unfalsifiable. And if they're unfalsifiable, then that means you cannot be warranted in believing them. And yet we live in a world where people are so fraught with a lack of critical thinking skills and just overrun with Dunning-Kruger confidence that they will absolutely assume that if we haven't debunked something, that they are warranted in accepting that it's true. And that's just not the way sound epistemology works. But there may be other reasons for religion. We'll be reading all your super chats over $5 after we're done taking callers, but we got more calls coming in now. So Nick is a theist from North Carolina. Pronouns are he, him, and wants to talk about the utility of religion, that it's a necessary evil. Hey, Nick, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. I'm a panentheist, at least that's what I'm called. Panentheist, I guess something similar to a deist. But I do believe that religion is actually necessary for humanity. Yeah.
Which religion and why?
I don't. So I think every culture has a myth that is built around an ideal person from their culture, somebody who is able to survive much hardship, and that person becomes, in a sense, a legend. And I think that religions are just the stories of what, I mean, it's metaphorical. It's gods, and a child would maybe think of it in a fantastical way, but an adult that has a better understanding understands the more human side of the stories.
Well, now I'm confused because it says you're a theist, but you just said that religions are metaphorical. So a theist is somebody who believes in a god, and a religion isn't merely finding metaphorical stories. It is taking stories that are presumed to be true in some significant regard as a guiding force for your life. So do you believe there is a God?
I believe that, yes, that there is a creative force. Like I was saying, something like a Taoist.
What's that mean? Is it an intelligence?
Well, it possesses intelligence.
See, it's so strange. Jeff, maybe you'll be better at asking the questions here because I'm already.
So
it feels dodgy.
Well, I just want a clear answer to Matt's question. Is it intelligent?
It is not separate from. It is not separate from really anything that we as humans could discern from reality.
So
it is bigger. It is essentially.
There's a dude named Pedro in Cancun right now. He's outside of a cantina and he just ordered an espresso. And he's wondering if Nick thinks that God is discernible from reality. And for some reason, you answered Nick's question before you answered Matt's question. You see, you realize you did that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So Matt's question is the God you believe in, this force, this creative force, is it intelligent?
It is intelligent.
Dope. Okay. All right. Now,
how do you know that?
Yeah, how do you know that?
It just, I mean, intelligence is a vague word. It's not even a word that it's a relatively recent word. I really call them because
which came first?
Grades of
which came
I think
first?
There's grades of human.
I'm sorry. Which came first? Intelligence or the word for it?
Intelligence, obviously. Yeah.
Then it doesn't matter how new the word is or what language you're talking about. We're talking about the concept. And so the concept is you're saying there's a creative force that is intelligent. And all I asked was, how do you know that?
Because we see the difference between things that are moving automatically and things that have choice. And that's the evidence that whatever created all of, what is, And I think it's something more like,
Okay.
we're
Can we hang
inside
on
of a
just a second?
brain of a larger entity.
I'm trying to make
It's
sure I
something
understand
that
this.
sounds
So
it
I'm
sounds
trying to make sure I
weird,
understand
but
this. I asked how
I
you know
think
how the force that started it all, supposedly. First of all, I don't agree that it all started. I don't think that's a conclusion we can make, but you think the creative force behind the universe is intelligent because we see a difference between things that move with choice and those things that don't, right?
hmm
I'm going to
yes,
assume that I'm one of those things that moves with choice, and a rock is something that doesn't move with choice, right?
yes.
Okay, so there's two examples that perfectly
Well,
and
I would say that a
totally.
rock moved with choice so long ago that we can't see it anymore. Because that's a
Never
question that
mind.
I
Now
have to
it's a
think
level of
about for
stupid. Now
the.
it's a level of stupid that I don't care to engage with.
What?
You
Well,
He
no,
think
just
rocks used to be smart
it's not. I'm
and
not
used
being
to be
stupid. I could
intelligent?
explain it.
No, no,
he
no.
just gave
You
us
interrupted
the
me.
Dax
You interrupted
defense.
me because you're terrified of the next question I'm going to ask that's going to expose that you don't know what you're talking about.
I was
And you
just thinking
decided to
through it.
interrupt me by suggesting that once upon a time rocks were intelligent. When was that?
No, that the
No, no, no. When was
intelligent
that?
force that
When was that?
essentially caused
When was
everything to
that? When was
explode
that?
and
When was that?
create movement
When was
in the
that?
universe.
When was it that rocks were intelligent?
That was when rocks were condensed into what is the intelligence that stretched out beyond the rocks as time, as time and space developed.
When were rocks intelligent?
It's getting worse.
Uh, when when there was no matter, but there was subatomic matter, I think
When
there
there
was
was
a
no matter
creative
except for
force.
the matter. Like, you're so
Well,
far
no,
out of your
there was
depth, Nick, you
subatomic
should
matter.
probably stop. You don't have even a fundamental understanding of how to describe the universe or matter or intelligence. You've
It's
dipped
just
off
that
into
these are
bizarro
interesting.
world to suggest. I'm still talking. You've dipped off into bizarro world to suggest that rocks were once intelligent and that they were intelligent when there wasn't matter, but there was some type of matter. Those aren't fucking rocks, dude. The rocks might be more intelligent than you if you keep this up.
Mm,
By the
This
way,
is nonsense.
maybe.
shout out to Doug for
I,
those that.
I I think they definitely would be if rocks were, the rocks, if everything was part of the central intelligence that caused the universe to disperse, then they would be way more intelligent than any of us combined. Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry for what the education system and religion have managed to do to your brain, Nick. I'm hoping we can find some way to fix it. Um, would you consider taking some, I don't know, courses on science or logic or epistemology or something like that? Because this is bizarro conspiracy level stuff that is incredibly nonsensical.
I just don't think, I think that there's not much of an explanation. How would there not have been some type of motive before, or in order for everything to start moving? Because there was a stillness, obviously, when there was only subatomic particles, before there was motion in the universe. So what caused the movement?
So, what do
What
you know
caused
about Big
everything to
Bang
turn?
cosmology?
I know. I don't. I mean, I've listened to lectures, but only half-heartedly.
Sure.
So I'm not like, I didn't take notes and whatnot. I wasn't a student necessarily.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
So,
I wasn't in. I wouldn't
rather
say I
than
was like in the classes, but I've heard people talking about it. Yes.
rather than digging in, because I'm not an expert, rather than just telling you that the current description of the universe, the current Big Bang cosmological model, is the best current description we have to explain all of the available observations, but that we don't have the ability to explore the expansion of that hot dense state prior to the limit of the Planck time. There's a time at which we
Mhm.
can't go back any further where the math breaks down, and we can't even really speculate about what was there. So we have no idea if the universe had a beginning, but at least the current model suggests that the expansion is I'm not going to come up with the right word, but essentially space-time is what expanded. And prior to that expansion, there wasn't time. I mean, like,
Correct.
maybe time didn't exist. Maybe the universe has always existed. Maybe there's a meta time. We don't know. But what we do know is that the way the model describes things, it could easily be the case that there is no time in the history of anything where the universe didn't exist. And then all we're talking about is things begin expanding and moving. And your question is, how could that happen without an intelligence? And my question is, why do you think it requires an intelligence? Where's your demonstration that this must require an intelligence for the expansion of the universe?
Okay. This is, and I know I come off woo-woo, but I'm really just building off of the knowledge of my culture and my traditions when I'm thinking about God and I'm thinking about religion and ritual and practice and the use of it and all of that. I think that every living being's prime directive or motive of living shows the
What
movement.
question do you think I just asked you?
The original movement. I'm sorry. You said a lot. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I just put it over my head if you can actually see the screen. The question is, where's the evidence the universe began?
That the universe began? I think the universe existed before expansion. Yes, we have science to prove that. You're right.
No, we actually don't. And I just described to you. I just described that to you, and the fact that you want to assert, you're on really desperate territory here when you assert that we have science to prove something that you don't understand and are clearly wrong about.
Okay, maybe you didn't say that there were subatomic particles before the expansion, but I have read that.
No, you haven't. Not in any science.
I have read that
whatever you read needs to be reported.
There was not matter. There was not matter
because prior to the expansion, the math breaks down and we cannot extrapolate. The notion that you think you have a clue what happened when the entirety of science does not, and then you want to claim that you have science to back it up, you're just talking out of your ass.
I don't hinge my whole belief on that. It's just one piece.
I didn't ask you what you hinge your belief on. Now you're just making excuses. Now, every time we show that you're wrong and that you're talking out of your ass and that you're making shit up again, Arnold, then you're like, oh, well, that's not what I want to call in to talk about. That's not what I hinge my thing on. What question did I ask you? What evidence is there the universe had a beginning? And you lied.
I know that I've read that there were subatomic particles before.
I don't give a shit what
expanded.
you've read, Nick. I give a shit what you can demonstrate, and you can't.
So I have a question for you, Nick.
I'm not God. I can't just snap my fingers, pan open.
Listen,
we know you're not God. I'm God. We already established that. Go ahead, Nick. Jeff, sorry.
Nick, you're not. Wait, Nick, hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. You're not talking about God. You're talking about Big Bang cosmology. Now, I had to look this up. And you can look it up too. I want you. Hold on. Well, I don't know why you're talking right now. Clearly, it's not your turn, right? So, I want you to tell me if there is when you look at from the beginning of the expansion event, cosmologists split it into a thing called an epoch or an epoch, right? Like little segments. Some of them are less than a second, like fractions of a second, and then they get longer as time goes on. I want you to tell me if you think that atoms are included in the first one of those, or subatomic particles.
Yes,
they're not.
Subatomic particles are.
So do you think they're in the second one?
We've observed.
So the first epoch is called it's what Matt was referring to as the Planck epoch, and that doesn't have subatomic particles. The second one, the grand unification, does that one have subatomic particles?
See, now I'm glad
Remember
I'm
when I said
being
you can look it
educated.
up?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I've heard you
just
say
look
that.
it.
I think it was to the previous
Just
caller. There's something about
just look.
Google.
No, I said it to you like 30 seconds ago. You can look it up. The fact that you're not looking it up is
Okay.
probably all the information I need to know that
I mean,
you're happy just to make stuff
let's
up.
not tout privilege, okay? I don't have. I'm on a phone talking to you.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm glad I have enough signal to even speak clearly with you. Like, let's not like, oh, you can't AI this real quick or something. Like, all right,
I
I
didn't
got
say
you.
anything about AI.
I could be wrong about that. It's not something I hinge my entire philosophy on, like I was saying before.
I didn't. I didn't say anything about AI. I said just look it up. I mean, if you look, that's even more. Like if you can't look it up right now, then
I'm
instead
writing
of
a
trying
note
to
to myself
answer,
to look it up later.
I got you.
Hey,
But
That's
then
how
why are
I
you?
operate.
But then why are you answering?
why don't we do this? Nick,
I'm
you
just letting you
wanted to
talk.
explain. Nick wanted to explain why he feels that religion is necessary. And since we're not going to make any progress on why he thinks there's a creative force, or why we should think there's a creative force, or anything about science, or anything about Nick, I want to give you the opportunity because you've been patient and you answered stuff. I'd love to know, like, I'm not religious at all. Why should I be religious and which one?
I think it depends on where you were born, because and in the context of your nation's politics, essentially.
Really? So it shouldn't
Because
matter whether the religion is true. I should be a part of the religion and politics of the place I was born? Is that a fixed
I
target?
think I think the truth of it matters, but I think it's not the ultimate. For me, at least, it is not the ultimate takeaway, or it's not the ultimate like end all be all. If it like I don't
For
think
me, it
there's a
definitely
lot of
is.
stuff in
But
Christianity. For example, there's a lot of things in Christianity that I don't think are true, but the truths of it, and a lot of, there's so many other variables to religion than just truth, the social context and the social impact, the reason
I only
why
care
people
about
believe
truth.
what they believe.
I only care about truth. But why should, since you say it's necessary, why should I care about things that aren't true or aren't demonstrably true?
Because they have impact in your life regardless of the truth of them. If
Oh,
somebody
no, no,
believes a
no.
lie and they stab
No,
you
no,
in the
no.
middle of the street, it didn't
I
matter whether
fully
it was true or
recognize.
not that he believed it.
I've been doing this. I've been doing this for almost 23 years. I fully recognize that religions have an impact on my life, but they have an impact on my life whether I believe in them or not. And I'm standing up because of the impact to do everything in my power to make religions either demonstrate that they are true and good or that they fucking cease to exist because they are harmful and corrupt. I want to know if you think it's necessary for me to be a part of a religion, why?
And I don't think it's necessary for you because you're a very intelligent person.
Then it can't be
I think most
necessary.
people
If
that
it's
are
not
above a certain
necessary for me,
IQ,
then it's wrong to
it is
say
not
it's
necessary for
necessary.
us. But I
If
do
it's wrong
think
for
there are certain people below a certain
if it's
threshold
not
where
necessary
religion
for
serves
me,
a
then
very
it is wrong to say
important
that it's
function.
necessary. That's not what necessary means. Maybe you mean to
I
say
think necessary is
it
dependent.
benefits.
It's not
Maybe
necessary for
what you
you.
mean to say is that it benefits some people, but it's not necessary. It's not a requirement.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
I guess that's a, yeah, that's a good way to
who
put it.
does it benefit and how?
It benefits people who, well, I mean, there's a lot of people, bad people too, but on the good side of it, it benefits people by giving them rituals that large groups of people agree are positive and agree are good, like singing hymns and coming together, tithing,
That's such a good
budgeting,
idea,
Cutting
things.
by
off
the
It's
way.
parts
like
of people's penises, forcing
you can nitpick
spouses to
it,
have
but there's
sex,
a lot of good
um,
functions. There's a lot of
praising
good
corrupt beings and fictional
practices.
stories.
Some of these things, yes, you can argue are, potentially bad. Like baptism, you could say, oh, they might drown a baby, but like it's not the point of it.
No,
Like the point of
that
it
is
is that
okay, Nick.
there's other.
Now we've moved beyond
there
stupid.
are a
No,
lot
no,
of practices
no.
that
Stop
help
talking, Nick.
people raise
Stop
children, raise
talking, Nick.
generations.
Stop talking, Nick. We've moved beyond stupid to incredibly fucking stupid. Do you think in your wildest dreams, in the entirety of my life, as somebody who was in fact a Southern Baptist, there's any shot in hell that I would ever make an argument as stupid as we should end baptism because they might drown a kid?
No.
Then why did you go to that
I don't think
desperate
you would.
straw man?
I think it's a comparable train of thought.
You're wrong and ridiculous.
I want to look.
It's to say that
Nick,
because there's some bad thing,
I'm gonna leave you.
that
Nick,
it's
hold on,
all
hold on.
bad.
I'm gonna.
I'm not an
no,
absolutist
nobody
like
said
that.
That's great. Nobody said that. But Nick, I'm gonna leave you with this, and this is I'm making a prophecy right now, and I don't believe in prophecy, but you're going to break my heart with this answer. I guarantee you. What culture were you saying that you were basing all of this on?
All of what? Like, I mean,
Your
basing
religious
all of
beliefs. Look, I'm not even
anything.
challenging them. I just want to know what culture are you invoking?
Well, I'm thinking of Black American culture when I'm.
No, I'm glad you
talking
said
about
that.
this.
Can you name for me 3 types of IQ tests, please?
Myers, 3 types of IQ tests.
Yeah.
Am I gonna call? I don't know. I can't do that. No.
You know, you said that religion is necessary for people with low IQ, and my ears perked up, and I didn't want to go here, right? But
It's a way to
prophecy fulfilled.
compartmentalize the point.
That's fine. That's fine. Look,
it's a way to compartmentalize the point. I don't believe in IQ tests ultimately, but it was just a way to compartmentalize the point. There's
you know
mental
why my ears
or emotional maybe threshold.
Hang on just a second.
Religion is good for.
So hang on, Nick.
I don't want to have to be
mute.
misconstrued. That's all.
Nick, I don't want to have to mute you, but Jeff sat there patiently. So let's please let Jeff speak and not be a dick.
This is why it breaks my heart that you say that, right? Because right now, you in front, like, I don't even want to bring, because this is not what the stream's about, but you a black man in front of a bunch of white people talking about IQ and that religion is necessary for people with low IQ, and that dog whistle, they hear it, right? And then when they hear you say it, they're like, ooh, now we can say it, right? And you knew what you were saying when you said it, right? That you said it for a reason, right? Because you also touted privilege, which I doubt you've read up on.
It's the best way to compartmentalize the point. Like,
it's the best way to subjugate our people. This is why my heart is broken right now, because you're touting this garbage.
Religion really helps them. There are people with a lot of layered mental illnesses through no fault of their own, just through genetics, epigenetics, all kinds of other factors, where the religion actually helps them exist in society. Before religion, they would have been cast aside.
Right now, you're telling me about your love for Calvin Candy more than you know.
The Samaritans. I just think religion has a lot of history of good that should be acknowledged honestly if atheists are ever to truly make the globe question it the way it needs to be. Because
Nick,
it's not
what
all
history?
True. You're right.
Nick, what history does organized Christianity have with people with mental illnesses? I'll tell you. I don't want you to answer because I'm not going to let you embarrass. No, I said I'm going to tell you. I don't want. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you because I don't want you to embarrass yourself further.
Okay.
What religions have done, in particular Christianity, with regard to mental illness, is write it off as demonic possession, to isolate those people from society, to disparage the actual science that explores and understands the mind and the conditions that impact the mind. All of the things you'd love to talk about as if you had a clue, like epigenetics. Religion has disparaged those things. Religion has marginalized, made use of abused and prevented the proper scientific treatment of countless people with mental health issues, both deficiencies and temporary conditions. Do not, in my presence, try to pawn off religion as if it's good for the little people, the stupid people, the broken people, because you sound like an arrogant prick and you don't know enough to wield that flag.
So you think that everything I said is just straight false? There's been no organization to help families, whole families, whole trees, whole phrenology of people to survive.
Nick, do you want me to mute you?
Economies and boost the population.
Nick, do you want me to
and boost the expansion of discoveries and innovation
I'm going to mute you,
through
Nick.
religious resources.
You're crashing out, Nick, and I need you to stop crashing out. Okay.
I didn't say.
I'm sorry. Stop talking. I'm answering your question. No, I did not say or think that everything you said was false. What an absolute straw man, cartoonish, weak-ass, cowardly position to tread back to. I said, I offered you the chance to demonstrate that your positions were true. And not only did you fail epically to do it, not only did you lie in the course of it, but you also suggested that truth wasn't all that important. It wasn't the primary concern, whereas truth is absolutely the primary concern. I don't know why you're talking. Why are you running your mouth right now? I'm educating you so that you can stop making people look foolish. If you can't demonstrate that your beliefs are true, and you don't care, and you publicly say you don't care that much if they're true, don't you dare pretend that I accused them of being false just because you are incapable and unwilling to meet your burden of proof. That's not my fault, that's yours.
I was supposed to demonstrate that the religion has had good impact in the world.
All those innovations that you're talking about, especially when they were done by Christians, were done and are still done at the cost of literally experimenting on our people, literally enslaving our people. There are children in the Congo right now digging for precious metals that we use in the technology. Hey, it brought innovation. That's dope. I don't know why this is what I mean. You're just saying it like, hey, at least it did this cool stuff.
Honesty. I confront the honest truth of what it is before I.
Yeah. Are you honest about the amount of human suffering that was thrown at it, especially black suffering? Are you honest about that?
Yeah. And
it's a good trade-off for you.
Honest. I'm not just 50-50. I don't just look at it as okay.
But that's a good trade-off for you, right?
It was the bad. They tortured us using the Bible. They justified.
That's a good trade-off for you, right? Just listen to the question, Nick. Nick, you're rambling. Is that a good trade-off for you?
With atonement.
With atonement, is it a good trade-off that they threw black bodies at science until iPhones popped out? Is it a good trade-off for you that they threw black bodies until PlayStations popped out?
Who have the spirit. I think that there are many Christians who, you could say that's just them being good and it has nothing to do with the Bible. But there's a lot of people in this country
I don't know what that has to do with my question, though.
And they actually want
but remember, you said innovations. I'm just asking, is it a good trade-off?
That the religion was worth it.
Nick, why aren't you answering my question?
I am. I'm sorry.
The question I asked you, listen, the question I asked you is very straightforward. I'm going to ask it again. I'm going to make it very, very straightforward. And that is going to be, is it a good trade-off for you that they threw our black bodies at science until all the innovation you like popped out?
You're asking, is it okay? Is that the root of it?
No, look, I try to be as clear as possible. I'm not asking about okay. I'm asking,
it's not okay.
Is
it could have been done more?
No. I'm
asking.
No. Listen. Is it a good trade-off for you?
No, no, it is not. Not no, it is not.
So then what else we got to talk about?
Well, the family, because I don't just think of myself. If I never have. I think of my community, and
No, you
I
don't.
see
Don't say that.
where I see. Okay, I could try to take away the. It doesn't work like that. It's good for a lot of people. It really is. I don't think. I just think, if anything, there needs to be an update.
All right.
That's what I
Okay.
think.
If there
I think
needs to be an update,
update.
then it needs to come from God. I have a question. Name one thing, one good and true thing that comes from religion that can only come from a religion based on its truth. And I'll let you keep talking.
In this day and age, there is nothing. But
Say
throughout
goodbye. I appreciate the
humanity's
call.
history,
Thank you
religion
so
was the
much.
first printing press. Religion was the first for a lot of things.
No, Nick, you're lying. Nick, you're lying. Religion didn't give us the first
Luther was the
printing
printing
press.
press. Am I
Nick, you're lying.
misremembering?
Listen to me. I'm going to tell you why you're lying. People did good things. People invented things. Religions held back progress. The fact that some of the people who did good things and the people who created good things happen to be religious does not mean their religion should get the credit for it. You can't credit religion with those things
you're right.
until you present
You are
the
right.
evidence that it was religion that did those things. Yes, religious people built hospitals and universities and fundamentally changed the world, but all of those things are possible without religion and have been done without religion. None of them are contingent on the truth of the religion. You, like so many others, are bending over backwards to give metaphorical stories and bullshit credit for what people did. And I'm not willing to. I'd rather hold people responsible for what they do and say and give them full credit for what they do and say. I would rather protect people from those parasites of society, the clergy, who demonstrate no expertise in anything other than their version of their story with no tie to it being true, while exploiting the masses, stealing their money, building grand castles, stealing babies from unwed mothers, burying them behind the churches, imprisoning people, enslaving people, standing in opposition to science. Religion, not one of them, has been overall a force for fucking good in the history of the world. Stop giving religions credit. Stop giving religions credit. Stop giving religions credit for what good people do. Now, what was your question?
I think religious, like atheist societies, they don't grow. Like they don't.
There are no atheist societies,
I think there's a reason
Nick.
why
there are no atheist societies. There have never been atheist societies. I'm sorry, but also whether or not a particular model of is there a God or isn't there a God, stirring beliefs in people's heads, has taken over the world and made it wonderful is irrelevant. I care about if it's true.
The goodness of it, of the benefits.
There is no goodness that cannot. I asked you, Nick. I asked you. I gave you the fucking opportunity. I said, what was the question I asked? It was, name one thing that is good and true that can only be achieved by a religion being true. And you said, half right, that in this day and age, there isn't one. And in reality, in no day and age, is there a demonstration of anything that is good and true that can only come from a religion.
Do you know why religious societies grow?
Religious harness the spirit of a region.
Do you know what?
With motivating factors incorporated through story.
Hey, Nick, I know you hear my voice. I don't know why you're doing
those
this.
Goals.
He doesn't care.
Hey, Nick.
I wanted to get it thought out.
Hey, Nick.
This is an excellent conversation, I think.
Hey, Nick, I don't think it is. It's a heartbreaking one. But do you know what it is that religions harness to grow? Do you know what it is that religions harness to grow?
I mean, tithing.
Oppression.
Yeah, usually, I mean,
Suffering.
Western religions in particular use military force. They before they,
Oppression.
you know,
Suffering.
before they enter a territory, they use
Oppression.
military force.
Suffering. It's oppression and suffering, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but that's not all religions. That is, yeah, Christianity has a lot to blame for that, and Judaism and Islam.
Mhm.
Wow. It's not all religions, but it's the only ones you seem to know anything about. Which one are you advocating for that doesn't have that
No,
oppression?
I study Taoism more than most. I studied Christianity a good bit. As far as I mean, I read a lot of it when I was in military school because I didn't have anything else to do, and I read the Bhagavad Gita. I couldn't get through all of it.
You think Hinduism's good?
Fluffy.
You think Buddhism's good?
I don't understand it well enough to really say if it's a net positive or negative. Hinduism in particular.
Well, at least you did all your research before picking a horse.
Yeah, I don't understand it enough to say whether it's good or bad. But I lean more toward Taoism, which is a Chinese philosophy. But it's not like a lengthy. You don't have to be like. It's not a big. It's pretty simple in the premise.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot more to religion than just oppression. Some religions,
You know what Eastern religions do? Eastern religions convince the downtrodden that it's not that bad. You should stay there. You're good to go. That's what Eastern religions do.
That's a broad brush. I know enough about Taoism to know that's not true.
Okay. I extended. I offered you the chance to give an opportunity. What is it about Taoism that I need that I can only get from Taoism?
Again, today,
then don't call me and tell me religion is necessary. What you're saying is you like it. Cool.
Not for you.
And I'm glad you like one that's less shitty, perhaps, than most of the rest of them. I wish you cared more about whether it was true. I wish you cared more about the pseudo-scientific glurge that your brain is consuming and regurgitating that makes you suggest that there are people who are just too stupid or too mentally corrupt to live in reality without being coddled by some religion. I disagree. I find that incredibly arrogant and condescending. And I find it especially embarrassing when the person doing the condescension is seemingly incapable of demonstrating how to prove the truth of anything they've said in the entire conversation.
I met a dangerous man the other day. I'm going to give you some. This is my proof, okay?
I don't need you to tell me a story, Nick. Nick.
I met a dangerous man the other day.
Nick, I'm going to mute you.
When he was
Okay, I'm going to mute you, Nick. I'm going to unmute you in a second because I need you to buckle down and pay attention. You've been on for 37 minutes. I have 3 other callers. One of them says they can prove God's existent. Another one is somebody I really probably don't have interest in talking to again after talking to them, I don't know how many times, but we will because Jeff hasn't. Another one has a question about the DSA and foreign policy. Here's my question. I'm going to unmute you. Just listen. I have a couple of quick questions. Were you listening to my intro at the beginning of the show?
About the DSA?
No. About calling in to demonstrate why we should believe what you believe.
Yes.
Did you hear me say that it would not go well for you if your reasons required stories? We've been on for 38 minutes. So here's my question. What in your God's fucked up reality made you think I needed you to tell me another story in order to avoid answering any of the questions we've asked you?
I don't have a relationship with my God. I don't claim to. I don't think that,
What question did I just ask you, Nick?
Fit that box. But
what question did I just ask you, Nick?
What does your God? I think you asked me, what does your God What made your God tell you that I would want to?
No, I didn't say your God tell you. What made you think I needed you to tell me another story in order to avoid answering the questions that you've avoided this whole time? It was a rhetorical question.
Well, because
no, Nick, it was a rhetorical question. It's me telling you, fuck off. I don't need a story from you. You were unable to do anything at all. You embarrassed yourself. I don't need you to tell me a story. I need you to provide evidence.
That's the demonstration.
Stories aren't evidence, Nick. There's no story you can tell me about some dude you met the other day that will prove that there's a God, is there?
No, that's not what it would prove.
And there's no story. There's no story you can tell me about a dude you met the other day there's no story you can tell me about a dude you met the other day that will prove that religion is necessary, is there?
Yes, there is. Yeah, that is the point of that story.
Okay.
That was
how much would you like to bet on that? Let's put up a $500 bet for charity. Actually, that might not be legal, somebody told me. So I'll back that off. All right. I'm going to give you a chance. Your claim is that this story about a dude you met will prove that religion is necessary. I'm going to let you do this, Nick. When you're done,
all right.
Well, I'm going to let you do this, Nick. But if you do, you will get both barrels. Are we clear?
This is going to be cultural appropriation.
I know I'm not going to win this bet because there are.
You don't have the boots for this hike, but I'm going to let you do it. Go ahead.
But I do think it was a useful tool, and you could argue that it's a better tool than modern science. And
I'm sorry, medicine. Nick. Are you telling me this story or not?
Okay, my bad. Okay, so I met a fellow who is, he was, I can't diagnose him, but he had some mental problems. He started to become aggressive and violent kind of out of nowhere, which I think indicates like schizophrenia or bipolar or something like that. And I was trying to talk to him in a way where I try to identify the switch and calm it down. But he caught himself and just started saying, I rebuke.
I don't usually say this, Nick, but I hate you, man.
It's hard for me to help you understand what's going on here. But
I want you to understand, like, I don't ever say this. I never, like, I've spoken to neo-Nazis. I've been called the hard R like 3 times a day.
I'm trying to get through this story about how religion actually helps.
And I legit,
this man,
like, on everything I love, I hate you, man.
Please finish.
I don't think that you could just say something is completely bad, completely good. I'm telling you about something that is good that helped both of us in this situation.
Okay, Nick, you're incapable, so I'm going to mute you, and you're going to sit there and get fucking schooled with both barrels. And I'm going to do it all without losing my zen, because this is my year of zen. And I'm going to treat you like a little chew toy and an object lesson for everybody. I'm going to do it as pleasantly as anybody's ever seen me do anything. You met a guy who, while you can't diagnose him, had mental problems, was aggressive and violent. And you, in your armchair diagnosis that maybe this was something like schizo or bipolar, were trying to talk to him to find some kind of switch to calm him down. But he ended up calming himself down by saying, I rebuke you, I rebuke you, I rebuke you. And one would presume that if we allowed you to continue your story, or if you hadn't deflected off to something else after Jeff called you out, you would have pointed out that this individual was seemingly hostile and absolutely a threat, and that religion calmed him down. So my first question, Nick, is that an accurate summary of where you were going?
Yeah, that it gave him the...
Yeah, now you're muted again. I'm only going to be asking you yes or no questions because school's in fucking session. So buckle up, get your pen and paper out. It's time for notes. The fact that someone says, I rebuke you, does not mean that they are engaged in anything supernatural. Once the psychology of an individual has been convinced that X is a viable path, the same way you were potentially looking for the thing that would calm him down. He knew the thing, perhaps, that would calm him down. Nothing about this story demonstrates that there was anything supernatural involved. And even if there were something that demonstrated there was something supernatural involved, nothing about that story would demonstrate that the supernatural was necessary to achieve that result. As a matter of fact, it portrays the exact thing that I tried to talk to you about a little while ago, about what religions had done on behalf of the mentally ill people. But you didn't listen because you're not interested in actually learning and thinking. You just want to defend the garbage that you've bought into. Religions have taken mentally ill people and people struggling with mental conditions and convinced them, like I fucking said a little while ago, that they're possessed by demons. And if you're convinced of that, and then you say, I rebuke you, I rebuke you, I rebuke you, you engage either something like a placebo effect, or you're really rebuking Satan. In which case, if you rebuked him, why would it ever happen again? Why would you continue to have mental relapses over and over and over again? It's because chronic psychological conditions that result in things like that aren't caused by demons. It is absurd. It is inhuman. It is disgusting and vile to prop up religions that take mentally ill people, lie to them about the cause, borrow from placebos to give them false temporary recoveries, and then make them feel as if they are from that point on a slave to that religion because they can't get out from underneath the things going on in their mind without reaching out to Jesus, without reaching out to the religion. It's been said that religions poison you and then offer you the cure. But I came up with a better version, which is that religions convince you you are poisoned when you are not, and then they offer you the homeopathic remedy because we know homeopathy is bullshit. Nick, I'm going to let you go. We don't need to get you back for anything else. I don't need you to say yes or no to anything else. I need you to take the notes from what I just said and then rewind and listen to the entire 43 minutes that you were on and realize that at absolutely no point in this conversation did you either demonstrate evidence or argument for anything that you said. Not just not compelling, but zero evidence. You made appeals to things that were false. I'd recommend that you go look into Big Bang cosmology. I would recommend you tune into Skeptalk on Monday nights, especially like last night. We had Erica Gutzik-Gibbon on and Dr. Blitz were both on. So you had a biologist and a physicist on this very network. Dr. Aaron Adair is frequently on shows here on this network. Monday's a great night to call to learn stuff about science. You are in desperate need of that. And you are also in desperate need of understanding of skepticism and critical thinking, because religion has managed to con you into thinking you're closing in on some truth while not caring about it and not caring about how to tell the difference. And when you admit that you believe things, when you can't tell the difference between the true things and the false things, you are admitting publicly that you are irrational. And when you go on, after acknowledging that you are irrational, to make proclamations about other people and their mental illnesses and other people and what they need and misrepresentations of what is necessary as opposed to what you just really like, you embarrass everybody. Stop doing that. Well, you didn't embarrass me, but you know what I mean. All right.
It's just
Jeff,
sad.
you want to hear proof of God?
Yeah, I always want to hear proof of God.
Cool. Ken hung up when he found out I didn't want to talk to him. Shaggy's calling from Puerto Rico. Pronunciation says he can prove God's existence. Hey, Shaggy, which God are we proving? And hi.
Hello, Matthew. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm here with Jeff.
Hello, Jeff. What's up?
What's going on?
Oh, nice to meet you guys. It's been an honor. Matthew, thank you for your service.
You can just call me Matt.
For your Navy service. Matt? Okay, Matt. Yep, that's perfect. So I obviously made let's dive right into it. So I think I can make a sound argument for God's existence. And I know you've heard it all. You've been debating for so many years. And well, here's the thing. I personally, as a Christian, I don't have a problem with the Big Bang. I don't have a problem with science. I don't have a problem with that because I believe the Big Bang needed a spark, like something that bigger than the Big Bang that made it happen. And you said that, well, we don't even know if there's even a before the Big Bang. Time, everything started there at that singularity.
Real quick. 1 second, Shaggy, because I'm already lost. Is this the argument?
Okay. Yes. I'm building up to it.
No, I don't. Okay, so I'm familiar. I'm assuming you're a layperson when it comes to Big Bang cosmology.
What do you mean, late person?
You don't work at CERN. You don't have like a relevant degree in the field. You're just a degular guy like me.
Right. We're both regular guys. It doesn't mean,
Cool.
It doesn't
No,
mean...
I'm not. Look, wait. I'm not disqualifying
Okay,
you.
I'll wait.
You and I just became best friends. Like you're Puerto Rican,
Okay.
I'm Dominican, and now, so that's one thing, and then we got
let's
two things in
go.
common. So here's what I want.
Let's go.
So here's what I want. Like, I don't want you to give me a primer on Big Bang cosmology. We're already in fuzzy territory by your use of the word spark. I don't know what that means, but can you just give me like the straight line argument? I don't. We'll go with that, and I'll type it out.
Okay.
I'm sure Matt might type it out,
All right.
but like,
All right.
yeah.
So, all right, you could say it's the Kalam cosmological argument. You've heard it before, so you know what I mean.
All right.
Yeah, it's called Kalam.
So the Kalam cosmological argument, and I want to know, because usually these conversations are like they go a specific way, but I'm going to go to like a little bit of the advanced philosophy class. Okay, is that okay with you?
Yep, no problem.
All right. What theory of causation are we using, right? And how do you know that that's true?
Okay, so answering your first question, so everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe had a beginning, therefore it had a cause. But we know that there is no on-cause.
Wait. Yeah. We're throwing a flag. Okay. We're throwing a flag on the play. All right. So I asked you, because I know the Kalam, right? By the way, this is the flag. So we threw the flag. I asked you what theory of causation you're using. So in philosophy, there are like antecedents and consequence. And people have different notions. Like a lot of philosophers don't. I don't want to side with a lot of philosophers because there's some things where I don't agree with the consensus in philosophy, right? But if you have some theory of causation where you can establish necessarily a principle. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to level with you. I don't think you can do that. But if you can tell me some theory of causation where necessarily A leads to necessarily B in all cases, right? And that's a principle. Yeah. And what drives that principle, then we're cooking. Because if everything that begins to exist has a cause, causes have to be real. And so me asking you what your theory of causation is you establishing that causes are a thing.
Okay, so let me just give me a second to, process everything that you said so I can answer correctly.
The TLDR version is that I'm skeptical that causes are a thing.
So, meaning that you think that the universe did not have a necessary cause. That's what you mean?
I don't even know what that means, but no, it means that I'm skeptical that causes are a thing.
if you can explain further, because I'm a bit lost on what you're trying to.
What do you think
mean by that?
What do you think a cause is?
Well, let me give you an example.
Don't ostensibly.
For example,
no, look,
let's say
I'm gonna wait. You can't give, in this particular case, you can't give me an example because we're in a very, very murky philosophical minefield. And for like for any type of causation that you posit, right? Or any like example that you give me, you're going to be overlapping like 3 or 4 different notions of causation, and I'm not going to know what you mean. Okay?
So simply put, a cause is that which makes an effect happen. So basically, it brings about or explains why another event or state occurs. That's basically what a cause is.
Okay, so I would look at that as like some antecedent that necessarily results in a consequent. Yes?
I'm sorry, you're asking. Go ahead. Can you repeat that? Sorry.
I'm asking if it's fair to say that what you're saying is that there's an antecedent that necessarily leads to a consequent.
In most cases, absolutely.
I know. I would say necessarily doesn't mean in most cases. Necessarily means in all cases.
Yeah, you can say all. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, are you familiar with something called counterfactual theory?
I am not familiar with counterfactor theory, but I'm here to learn. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Whoa. Hey, time out now. That's crazy work. Teach is a labor verb. I'm a socialist. So it's too close to Juneteenth for me to do this much laboring. So what I can tell you, look up counterfactual theory. It'll tell you what it is, right? But it's contentious. But we're in kind of weird waters, right? Because I'm just going to accept premise 1 because it's going to take an hour. I don't think you have a way to establish to me that everything that begins to exist has a cause. I actually was generous because I don't even think you have a way to establish for me that things begin to exist. But we'll just pretend that premise 1 is, we'll put it to the side. Okay.
All right.
So now we're on to premise 2. The universe began to exist. Do you have some substantiation for that?
Yes. So the the argument I'm trying to make, and yes, I looked up counterfactual theory. Got to do a bit of more research on that. So the argument I'm making, the Kalam argument, is actually a bit mixed with the design argument. So that's where my second point comes to light. So
right now
as humans,
we're just looking for substantiation for the universe began to exist.
You mean, what do you mean substantiation? What, can you explain?
So you just told me Bigfoot is real, and I'm like, I'm not sure Bigfoot is real. I need evidence. That's kind of like what this is. You said the universe began to exist. I'm like, that sounds weird. I'm not so sure about that. And so I need evidence of that. Like usually what you would do, the easy way to do it is just give me another argument where the conclusion is, therefore, the universe began to exist. But I'm beginning to suspect you don't have that.
Well, if we read what the Bible tells us, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and then God said, "There be light," and there was light. So at that point, I could argue that could have happened when the Big Bang occurred, and the book of Hebrews also says that out of nothing He created the universe, and that word "out of nothing" created the universe, what was not seen, is actually very similar. Obviously, the book of Hebrews, he's not making a scientific claim, so I wouldn't challenge this as such. But he is saying that out of nothing he created the universe, and it kind of matches up with what we have till this day. You
All
know,
right, check it out.
we had nothing.
So far I've given you a premise for free, right? And now I'm going to give you some fact that you said for free. I'm going to grant you that somebody wrote in a book somewhere that in the beginning.
Yeah.
So this is going to be easy. We're taking off of the advanced class. We're taking off the train, like putting the training wheels back on. So somebody wrote, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then somebody else wrote, from nothing, God created everything, right? I want you to give me the inference from that people wrote stuff to therefore the universe began to exist.
All right. By inference, meaning how do I line those two things up? Is that what you mean? Like, how do I connect the dots?
Can you see the screen?
I can. I can
Do you see
the
the shocked expression
very
on my
small.
face?
Let me open it. Yeah, it's open now. I can see the screen. I can't hear it
Do you
though
see
because I got to listen.
Do you see the shocked expression on my face?
Yeah.
All right. So look, Shaggy, I think that you went onto a bobsled and you've never been bobsledding. And I don't think you have the knowledge base to run the Kalam. Like I could grant you the Kalam and I don't think you could get to God because the Kalam has like contentious premises that are like, forget like easy, like whatever. It can't get past the easy stuff, much less the technical parts in philosophy, right? But it seems like you might have then a secondary argument that's going to be even more contentious. That's going to talk about like things that are outside of space and time, whatever that means. Which you have to like provide support for. Some other causal notion that's not temporal, which I don't know what that means, and you'll also have to provide support for. And you can't provide support for premise one of the Kalam. I don't think that you want to use this argument. To be honest, I don't think you've read up on the argument or its critiques enough to render this argument.
I think the best argument for God, or any God.
You didn't start with the best one?
I'm sorry?
Did you start with the best one?
Not the best one.
Let me ask you a question, Shaggy. Oh, we on YouTube. I could say this dude's name. Look, on TikTok, I always got to say Shitler but here, if I asked you what was bad about Hitler, what would you say? What would be the first thing out your mouth?
Something, but I'm sorry, you said the question. If you could say something bad about Hitler? Go ahead.
Let's say I'd never heard of Adolf Hitler, and I said, hey, Shaggy, somebody told me this Hitler dude was bad. What's bad about him? And you will say?
Well, he's a murderer, psychopath, killing Jews.
All right, let's try not to use that second word, but yes, a murderer. He did a Holocaust. Great.
Yes.
So you start with the biggest. You don't say, hey, his tax plan was kind of shitty. You start with the top thing. So we're gonna reset. We're gonna reset. And I'm only doing this because you don't know this, but behind the scenes, Matt said, yo, let's have some fun with this conversation because it's cool. So I want you to have some fun. Give me the best argument from jump. Every time you call a show where they're trying to tell you to prove God, you should start with your very best argument.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Then it's the design argument. That would be the best argument for God.
All right, let's go with the design argument. There are several of those, so now you have room to play.
All right. So I can start? I was waiting for you.
Go for it. P1.
Go for it.
All right.
First premise.
All right. So we as humans, we can recognize design artist. Like, I don't have to see a painter. If I see a painting, I know there's a painter behind it. I don't need to know who was it or when he did it, but we could recognize that painting had a painter. Well, these days, we have.
So this is kind of like an inductive
AI.
case you're making. You're making an inductive case that in every case where we see thing X for the entire sample, we see that the designer is something with a mind and is intelligent, right?
Yes, we can recognize intelligence behind design.
So now we have another problem, because for an induction sample, you can't ignore extra data, right? Like if you have data, like if I said every single time I see a car crash, it's a Ford, but then I also know that it's a Taurus, like a Ford Taurus. I wouldn't remove the Taurus from there. I'd just say Ford Taurus, right?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So now your inductive sample is every time you see a thing that's complex or whatever attribute, I'll grant you all the attributes. It is designed by a mind that's trapped in a fleshy meat sack. So you can't throw that away. That's the Taurus. So now the induction that you're licensed to make, that you have the ability to make, is that when you see the universe, it was probably designed by a fleshy meat sack mind having thing?
No. We can recognize design and intelligence.
Can you
even behind?
Can you summarize the critique that I just made? Well, I just want to make sure you're not on a script and you're actually listening to what I said.
Well, I am listening. You said
we will demonstrate that by the repetition.
Well, I'm going to try because I'm going to try. I'm going to try my best.
Are you watching? Look, one thing that people will say about me, and this is part of my brand, is I don't like flowery language. I don't like gatekeeping information. I try to speak in regular people talk so that people understand.
Okay.
When we were in the advanced part, I was saying a little bit of jargon. I don't like to use it. But right now, I'm speaking like regular people. Like, I guarantee you, meat sack is not a technical term. I use that for comedic effect. So you know what I'm talking about. Are you looking at the chat? I'm gonna give the chat a direction right now. But I need to know you're looking at the chat. All right. Chat, type 1 and just send a 1 in the chat if you understood what my critique was about an induction and the inference. And Dawnbreaker, I think I agree. Meatbag is better. Do you see all the 1s?
Not yet. I mean, I'm looking at the chat, but I haven't. Oh yeah, there's some
it's
dude.
A string of 1s.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I see them.
I guarantee you, a bunch of these people have not heard the argument that you have written in front of you right now, and they understand the critique. So now this is another induction. It's reasonable for me to assume that you would have a better understanding, right, of the critique than they would, because you're familiar with the argument. So now I want you to reproduce the critique.
I mean, can't I continue with like my train of thought?
Can you ignore what I said and go to the next line of your script? No, I don't think that's cool.
I don't have a script in front of me. I don't.
It's either a script or it's Teddy Ruxpin. Do you know what Teddy Ruxpin is?
No, I don't.
I love aging myself. So it's this teddy bear that got a cassette tape on his. And what I think some people do is they do a Teddy Ruxpin, and so they press play on tape and they say their thing, and then they pause when I'm talking, and I said my thing, and they don't. I could have said anything. I could have said, I'm drinking a soda and I'm going to the store tomorrow. Doesn't matter. when I'm done talking, you just press play on tape and say the next thing on the tape. What I want you
Oh
to
yeah,
do is
but no.
reproduce what I said so that I know. Look, I could tell
I'm gonna
you the
try.
argument.
I'm
Like
gonna
when you
try.
started your argument, I told you your argument, right? Like you have an inductive sample of
Yep.
things that are complex that you know are designed
Right.
and they all share this attribute, right? And then
Yeah.
you look at this other thing and you're like, ooh, that's complex. So I think it's designed. Dope. And I'm with you.
Yeah.
But then there's an additional attribute on all the designers that have meat sacks, that they're all organisms, they're all living things. So you
Oh well,
can't,
that's what you
I
mean.
wouldn't think
Okay.
that you would, I don't think you can ignore that, right? That's another part of your
Yeah.
data.
It's like,
Yeah.
let me jump in for a second, because not only do I have questions for later, but hopefully this will help with what Jeff's doing. If every mind we've ever encountered has been a function of a brain, would it be rational to determine that there are minds that exist beyond a brain?
I believe so.
No. Wow. Okay. If the only thing you knew is that every mind you'd ever seen was a function of a brain, what reason would you have for thinking there would be a mind that could exist outside of a brain? What's the reason?
I'm gonna try to repeat what you said so I can process it. You said if there's a function of a mind that there's a function of a mind that oh Jesus Christ, try to repeat it.
Here, let me help
Function of
you.
a mind.
What reason would anyone have to believe that a mind could exist other than as a function of a brain?
Well, Matt, that's an interesting question.
I'm aware.
I wouldn't. I either need more time to answer it, or I wouldn't know how to answer that. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to say that you don't know how to answer it. And I'm going to say that because
All right.
evidently nobody does. See, when we start talking about, if we want to come up with an explanation for something, we make a list of candidate explanations. And until such time, for example, if we want to say, hey, what caused the universe? I don't get to include universe creating pixies as a candidate explanation until there's a demonstration that it is reasonable to conclude that universe creating pixies are likely. And this goes for everything else that hasn't been demonstrated. So until such time as there's been a mind demonstrated to actually exist beyond a brain, and that's been supported by evidence, you don't get to include it as a candidate explanation. This is, in a way, what Jeff was getting at, and maybe slightly differently phrased. But you said we can recognize design. What do you think the hallmark of design is? What is it that we recognize when we say that's designed and that's not? And can you point to something that's not designed?
Would you? Okay, I know you're asking me a question, so I'm not gonna answer with another question. But is it okay if I can ask you your question after this?
Maybe. All I'm trying to, you made a statement. You said that we can recognize design. And I have my understanding of what goes into recognizing design, but it seems to be very different from yours. So can you identify one thing that is designed and one thing that's not designed?
Well, let's go simple. A building, it's designed and it wasn't there.
Okay.
There's builders, and that's a simple example.
What's the thing that isn't designed?
Oh, sorry. A non-design thing. Let me think. Non-design thing. Jesus. I mean, that's a hard question.
That's a further problem, by the way, with your hypothesis.
Yeah, I'm trying to a non-design thing. Non-designed. That's a good question, Matt. I right now, out of the
Okay.
top of the head, you could say, let's see, something in the physical world that's not designed. Because I count design, like if I were to talk about like trees and plants and animals, then yes, I would include it in the design. But a
And
non-design
rocks?
thing,
You,
rocks.
you think rocks
Well,
were
I mean,
designed? Do
well,
you
I
think
mean,
chemicals were designed?
I think look, rocks. We technically, our
Shaggy,
phones and
Shaggy,
CPU.
I'm trying
Yes.
to help you. You
Yes.
believe that God designed everything, right? Every grain of sand, every chemical, every process, all of space-time, every rock, every tree, right?
Yeah, I believe that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So under your model, there is nothing that isn't designed. So your design arguments, your sort of Paley's watchmaker arguments, where you're walking along a beach and you reach down and you pick up a watch and you know that it's designed, or in your case where you try to go with the intuitive thing of, hey, when we see a building, we know it how to build her. You're doing it in a way that absolutely, completely, and totally undermines your position because there's nothing that isn't designed. In my world, there are things that are in fact designed by intelligence and things that are not designed by intelligence. And the way we tell the difference has nothing to do with complexity. And it certainly doesn't pretend that we can tell the difference between something when our model says there is no difference. Instead, we recognize design based on the evidence. And so if we have evidence of something occurring naturally, and we have no evidence of something occurring naturally, and we have evidence of something being actively designed by identifiable agents, and we have no evidence for that, those things are what determine how likely it is that something is or isn't designed. If you're out walking along a stream and you see a bunch of mud and sticks and brush damming up the river, you get to make a list of candidate explanations for what caused that. Maybe it was a beaver. Maybe it was a terrible storm. If it was done by a beaver, it isn't more complex. That is the reason we recognize it. It's because we've observed beavers doing this, and we recognize the teeth marks, the claw marks, the structure, the path up in there, and we recognize that those things are incredibly unlikely, if not virtually impossible, to occur just by the physical process of nature that would dam up a river. That's how we go about making candidate explanations, and that's how we go about recognizing design, not by its complexity. As a matter of fact, one of the prime hallmarks of design is simplicity. Nature is incredibly efficient and lazy. Um, Designers design things, and the better the design, while there are certainly complications and computers are complex, et cetera, blah, 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 it is the elegance of simplicity that we recognize. But the true measure is by contrasting that which occurs naturally with that which does not occur naturally. And under your model, everything occurs naturally. So you have no contrast, which is why they've convinced you to buy into the notion that complexity is the hallmark of design. And they have taught you wrong.
Okay. But even a rock, as simple as it is, everything that's ever been made in this universe, well, not, I wouldn't say everything, but almost everything is in the 118 elements of the periodic table. And if we look, like, everything inside a rock, like microscopes and everything, and we see it, like how it's built, it's actually, you can still recognize design.
No, you
And
can't.
the fact that,
Nice try. I just debunked your entire position, explained in really simple terms that a child could understand the true hallmarks of design. And what you did was you said, nuh-uh, if you get down and you look at the actual chemicals, you can see design. Okay, which chemicals weren't designed?
oh, so you're going back to the simplicity thing.
Yes, you
Well,
don't
I
get
think
to escape the
all of them
problem by
were.
pretending it didn't exist. You don't get to suggest
Yeah.
that Oh, look. I bet you'd love to talk about the bacterial flagellum, wouldn't you, if you knew what it was?
Maybe, maybe.
Yeah. It's a common argument from the Discovery Institute and her design proponentists, which is the uh, morphing word that we found when they tried to start calling creationists intelligent design proponents, or design proponents. The reality is that they'll look at something like the bacterial flagellum, which is essentially a chemical motor that powers a bacteria around, little wiggly tail thing. And what they'll suggest is that it's too complex to have occurred simultaneously. It's something called irreducible complexity. I don't know if you've spent any time looking into that.
Yeah.
But this is how the creationists lie to you, because they misrepresent the nature of what is and isn't possible chemically. And under their model, they want to posit a God to create the processes or be behind the processes. And the only way they can do that is if they show that those processes cannot be naturally occurring. At what point in history has any scientist, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, atheist, or otherwise, demonstrated that the laws of physics, that chemistry cannot occur without supernatural intervention?
I don't think any scientist has.
And until they do, you don't get to consider it a candidate explanation. Until they do, you don't get to consider it a candidate explanation. And you certainly don't get to claim that well, you can claim all day that you see design, but you don't. You see what you view as the appearance of design, and anything that is sufficiently misunderstood or incomplete in the understanding. It's like Arthur C. Clarke said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so if you look at a cell and you can't imagine how a cell could happen naturally, that's a failure of your that's a failure of your imagination. That's a failure of your understanding. And by the way, we'll all have that failure of understanding and failure of imagination for a long time. But that's what it is. It isn't confirmation that it couldn't have been designed. That is human arrogance giving up rather than acknowledging that the correct answer is, I don't know, let me go find out.
All right. So I have a question for you, Matt, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. And for Jeff as well. I mean, both of you, either or. So my question is,
Please.
Okay. So let's say there's a parallel Earth. Well, I wouldn't say parallel Earth. Let's say there's another type of another world. Let's just say that. And we don't know about this world. And okay, we only know about Earth because we're here, we're talking to each other, blah blah blah. Well, in that world, let's call it the X world. Let's just call it that. Well, it happened from the Big Bang, so it has the same origin as us. It's still in this universe. Would you think it is reasonable to conclude that instead of humans over there, we have a super AI build made out of rocks? And hear me out. Technically, all CPUs in this universe and on Earth are made of silicon, which are made of rock. So back to the simplicity that you said and its origin, yeah, we're talking on rocks right now, basically.
Oh my God.
And they have intelligence, artificial intelligence. So what do you think is logical to conclude that could happen? Because if we happen and we built the AI, do you think it's reasonable for us to conclude that could happen?
Shaggy.
Yeah.
No, I think you're cartoonishly flailing about, and I'll let Jeff answer this in 1 second. No, and the answer is because when it comes to biological evolution and change, we have reasonably well understood mechanisms for how that change is governed. Evolution by means of natural selection, random mutations, and what life is, as far as the life that we're aware of, other types of life may be possible, is this self-replicating chemical that can reproduce with errors. We do not have evidence that rocks, silicon or otherwise, have any mechanism by which to reproduce and change with errors. And as a matter of fact, because of the way chemicals interact and the chemical nature that drives biology. So it's physics at the ground level, then it's chemistry, then that becomes biology. If you could demonstrate some mechanism by which rocks can form circuits, can evolve and change to be more than merely the mineral, then you would have a reason to think, hey, this is a path worth pursuing and maybe possible. Until then, in my view, all you're doing is demonstrating that you still don't understand this. And so you came up with another example, and you're going to use that example to say, for all we know, that might be happening over there. Well, the time to believe that there's sentient silicon over there is after it's actually been demonstrated and confirmed and not a second before. And sorry for going on, Jeff.
Nah, you're good. Look, we've actually kind of surpassed God in our design of like just chips, right? Like, do you know how much 3 nanometers is, Shaggy?
They're very, 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 very small, very small.
It's like about
measurement.
9 or 10 silicon atoms wide. We're guessing, like we can't see it. That's what a transistor now, like in your phone and on some of the computers that are coming out. That's how small they are, and they're configured in such a way to do Boolean algebra and to say because it's a semiconductor, sometimes it lets electrons through and some like conducts, and sometimes it doesn't, to create this math so that Matt could play chess on his computer and I could play GTA 6 on my PlayStation, right? That's all it is.
Yeah, let's go.
Right? Now, look, Matt gave you a very clear, logical argument and I agree, for simplicity, but I'm gonna just pretend that didn't happen for a second. Do you think do you still think complexity is the hallmark of design? Like if you see a complex thing, it has to be designed?
Well, logically speaking, from a logical standpoint, yes.
No, it's look, I'm going to grant you so much here, and you're going to hate it at the end. Do you think that complex things have a designer?
I could recognize intelligence or some type of design in complex things, yes.
Okay. And is that's what you're saying, is that it's complex and therefore it has a designer?
Not necessarily. Well, yeah, you could say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Just for the sake of the argument, yes.
Cool. And the designer is also complex, right?
Well,
like humans, we're complex, right?
Yes, and
we're
so
complex. Here's what I got. So
yeah.
Wait, we got it. So for every complex thing that you see, you've seen a complex designer. And therefore, when you see complex things, you think you have is God complex?
Yeah, absolutely. It's complex.
Okay. Well, we got him. We got him, folks.
No, you didn't get me.
No? Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
No, you don't.
I'm going to tell all my friends. I'm going to write it in my journal tonight.
What designed God?
Oh, yeah, you try to get me in that little trap.
Oh, I didn't try.
Nope.
No, it's not a try, and it's not a trap. See, what happened
God wasn't designed.
No. Yeah, he was, by your own admission, by your principle, by your statements. I'm sorry, Shaggy, you need to stop talking because now I'm having my fun. See, when you said, logically speaking, and everybody in chat laughed because you don't have any basic understanding of logic, and you've been nice, and I'm not trying to be a dick to you, but you just kind of irritated me by doing you caught me in a trap. No, You asserted that you can recognize design by complexity. You then asserted that God was complex. You had also already previously acknowledged that all complex things are designed. Therefore, if you understood logic, if A then B, if B then C, therefore A then C. If you recognize something as complex, then it has a designer. If God is recognized as complex, then God has a designer. That is an absolutely valid syllogism that, under your view, is a sound syllogism because the premises are true, but you want to accept the premises and reject the conclusion, which makes you, by definition, what's the word, everybody? Irrational.
Irrational. Now, Shaggy,
Wow.
do you know why I did that? Do you know why I did that? Do you know?
I got to tell you this. If
Mhm.
we're speaking logic terms, then yes, you got me. Yeah,
Okay.
logically,
We're not
you
speaking
both
logic.
build that up. Yeah, yeah, we are.
All right.
Logically,
No,
logically
the reason I
speaking,
did that is because of a man named William Paley. Do you know who William Paley is?
I do not. I do not.
He's one of the first people that did like a simple design argument. Do you know when he did that?
I have no idea.
Your great grandfather and his great grandfather weren't born yet. So this is one of the things that
Really?
actually,
One born yet? Who's one born
this was
yet?
like in the early 1800s. Now, here's the thing that kind of annoys me about these kinds of conversations. This is something I told a friend of mine. Actually, yeah, that's right. You know J. Mike, Matt.
I do. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I told this to J. Mike a couple years ago, a little while after we first met. I said, "Hey, you know what I hate is that we're having a lot of the same conversations that people had centuries ago. Like I had these conversations when I was learning philosophy in my early 20s, and we're still having them today. And the reason is because the design argument and its critiques were published before the Civil War, right? And we're in 2026, and you just went on a YouTube like, hey, complex, like, but you haven't read it. They all wrote this stuff down.
I haven't.
Yeah, they all wrote that stuff down, and I think it's the reason I get annoyed, and I don't care because like I'm a sadist when it comes to like reasoning. Like I do this for fun, but the reason I think it's annoying is because with all of the people that wrote all this stuff down, it's almost disrespectful to the entire craft to not read it and then just go out and be like, I'm gonna just do. It's like you didn't learn to play guitar and you want to do Jimi Hendrix like day one.
No, I
But you
agree.
didn't.
I agree with you. I just didn't know about. If I knew about them, I would have done my research. You got me in a basic logic trap card thing, and even though you did get me, both of you, that was. I'm gonna reason with you guys, right? I'll admit it. You guys got me. You got me good in the wordplay. You know, you got me. I'll admit that.
It's not wordplay. Right? It's not a fucking pun, Shaggy. It's reason. You
no,
one thing
know,
you need to do. No, listen.
Okay.
You can get better. Right now, you are demonstrably irrational. And instead of saying, hey, I should do something so that I'm not being irrational, so that I care about the truth and care about rationality, instead of doing that, you are rationalizing. You're coming up with, oh, we tricked you. Oh, it was wordplay. Oh, you got me. Oh, it's just gamesmanship. Please start caring about what's true and how to tell what's true. That's how I went from being an evangelical fundamentalist Southern Baptist studying to be a preacher to being a godless heathen, doing my best to teach people how to stop being gullible buffoons in servitude to the money machine that is destroying the world and helping the billionaires and fascists. Sorry, I added extra stuff in there for importance. I know that's probably not you.
No, it's cool. No. Hey, it's cool. Matthew, it's cool. I agree with you. Listen, Matt, I agree with you that religion has done a lot A lot more damage than good. Let's put it that way. Yes, more damage than good. But I don't want to get sidetracked here because, you know, what if God, if he is omnipotent, what if he designed, and you're going to laugh. Yeah, I know you're going to laugh, but I'm just going to put it out there. What if, as an omnipotent being, omnipotent meaning that he can do anything, even illogical things like pregnant virgins, like Mary, or
no.
What if he designed himself?
Please stop.
Throwing it.
Please stop.
Oh man.
Let me explain this to you. I promise, Shaggy, I don't want to be a dick.
No, it's cool.
You are
it's cool.
epically clueless. You are epically clueless, but you can stop. You don't have to be. Because even apologists, professional atheist, godless, and Christian philosophers recognize that how absurd it is to suggest that God can do the illogical. We settled that 1,000 years ago. God can't do the illogical. You are now, not only are you sacrificing logic in the sense that you don't care if you're being rational, now you're suggesting God can do that which can't be done. God can make a square circle. God can make a married bachelor. In your case, the example you chose to give was a pregnant virgin. That's not logically impossible. Virginity is a bullshit construct, and pregnancy without the appearance of sex can absolutely happen. There's nothing illogical about a pregnant, air quotes, virgin. Plus, you have no reason to believe that that's ever actually occurred. I breed snakes. I've had snakes that got pregnant without ever having sex. Reptiles have the genetic ability for parthenogenesis. Humans, generally, as far as we can tell, have never been able to demonstrate parthenogenesis, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. But you have no reason to think it even occurred. And now you're desperately flailing around with, well, hang on, I know you're going to laugh, but what if God's so magic he can do the impossible? What if God's so magic he can do the illogical? What if he's so magic he can both exist and not exist at the same time? What if he can make it so that it appears absolutely irrational to you, but it's completely rational to me? You are confused and lying to yourself, and it's sad. We need to stop.
I see.
Thanks, Shaggy.
I see your point, Matt. I do see
Thanks,
your
Shaggy.
point.
Give it some thought and call us back another time.
Wait. Can I say something else?
No.
Real quick?
No, you can't.
It's not
call
about God. It's
time.
not about God. It's not.
I don't care what it's about.
It's not about God.
I was going to say, I just say I don't care what it's about?
Now I'm gonna take my atheist hat off and put my sociology hat on. What you just heard was a boundary, and boundaries, you shouldn't cross those things. No matter how much you want to say what you want to say, the boundary was like right there.
Like Scooby-Doo, where are you?
And yet he keeps going.
And you know what I'm going to do now, Shaggy? I'm going to ban your phone number, you little prick. We're 14 minutes over time. I gave you mountains of time. And Jeff sat here and patiently explained to you what boundaries were. And you decided to be a dipshit anyway. So I'm going to take your number and I'm going to ban you. So instead of getting to call back to try to learn, you get nothing. Everybody is dumber for having listened to you. And you just fucked over any shot that you get to speak to me again. Bye, bitch. Okay.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Matt. When he said, "What if he designed himself?" I almost called it a day. I almost said, "All right, we're done with life and stuff."
It's nuts, and I have my. That's what I had to do. Sorry, I got weird hiccupy burpy type things. That's what I had to do to kind of keep me from actually crashing out. Because there were people who were like, oh, this guy isn't for real. This is a troll call. But somebody says that about every call that comes in. And what I'd like people to really stop doing is that, in part because I have no idea most of the time, whether or not the person I'm talking to is sincere, absolutely delusional, or just pretending to be delusional, because there are people out there. I have yet to have people call in and present an argument that is actually more stupid and confused than things that people who I know to genuinely believe those things have presented to me. It's impossible to parody, I guess, this, but somebody in chat was like, oh no, Matt, please. I don't know. I don't know what that was in reference to, but if you put it in a $5 super chat or greater, we'll be reading them. And that's what we're going to start doing right now. I've got them all queued up.
$10.
Wait, Arden set it back to $10?
I didn't know we did it down to 5.
I said it at 5 at the beginning of the show.
Okay, I did not hear that. I must have been screening calls. I've been telling everyone $10 the whole show.
Okay. Well, there's only a couple 5s, so we'll get there. All right.
Sorry, 1 second.
All
that
good.
that threw me off and I lost.
I got the list in front of me, so if you're ready to just pop the screen up.
Yeah, no,
there we go.
I got lost on getting that set up is what I'm saying.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, you're good.
Here we go. Joshua Everett, $10. And thank you so much, Joshua. Jeff is the best person we elder millennials have produced in our time on this planet. Glad to see him being treated so well. We met on one of Jovan's streams.
Yeah.
And it took about 5 minutes before I was like, yeah, I got to get this dude on the show. We got to hang out. So, yes, I concur.
I claim Gen X, though, so take it back.
Yes, I'm Gen X as well.
Are we going back and forth?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So we got Green Man Dave, $10. Dope. I'm happy to see you made it home safe, Matt, and I'm glad to have met you. I hope to have another opportunity in future.
Thanks so much, Dave.
I saw a lot of stuff in chat where people were saying that they had met you at the con, and so I think that's cool. People got to meet you.
Yeah, no, there aren't as many cons as there used to be. Conventions. There's more cons like con jobs than ever. But this weekend was NanoCon, and I love the people who run NanoCon. I was asked if I'd come down and do a magic show, and I spent months and lots of time and money to put together the best show I could. And then I got down there, and they all enjoyed it. I fucked it up way more than anybody watching it knew I fucked it up, but I've done stuff like this long enough that, one of the things about being a professional or quasi-professional in something is that a lot of times it's not about not making a mistake. It's about knowing how to recover from them so that nobody notices that there was a mistake. And that I can do. And I can occasionally be funny. And then I was fortunate on Sunday morning, I hosted a panel. Hemant Mehta had to leave. His flight was early and the place was a long way from the airport. So I hosted a panel with several people about reaching out and different platforms to do. And that's when I went live on TikTok for the first time in a long time to say, okay, I'm going to start doing TikTok stuff again because they told me I have to. And then immediately after that, I was fortunate where I did a panel and was there with Marissa, is it Richardson? I think that's right. My apologies if I got it wrong, Marissa. She was the first trans person that was a government official or appointee in Tennessee. And also on the panel was Fish Stark, who's the president, executive director, whatever, of American Humanist Association, and just fucking outstanding. And Monty Mader, who I met for the first time. And the four of us were sitting there talking about what we needed to do to potentially change politics and get people involved, and how and where we draw lines. And it was a great weekend. I'm very glad I went. I'm glad I got to do more than just the magic show. Although I would have loved that. I mean, the panel was really good, and it was an unexpected treat. So very nice to meet everybody and get to see everybody. So thanks, Dave. The Atheist Mechanic, who was also at NanoCon. Matt, it was great getting to meet you at NanoCon and others from the chat. Looking forward to Rocket City Reason and meeting or reuniting with everyone there. Looking forward to a great show. Yeah, the plan is for Arden to go to Rocket City Reason. I might, but we're not sure yet.
Now we got Dante Verona 1. It says, low information voter. Oh, look, we elected a bunch of Republicans and the economy got bad. Me. Yeah, but that only happens every single time. Great induction sample. Thank you for the $10.
Yes, I had a bunch of memes saved on my phone, and they were ones that I had actually gone through and researched. I might pull them up if somebody calls in to actually challenge something. There was one caller left that wanted to ask the question, and I'm sorry we ran out of time because theists are always going to have priority, but they wanted to know what the Democratic Socialists of America, how their views aligned with U.S. foreign policy. And if that person's still listening, my answer is I don't care how it aligns with current foreign policy, because foreign policy can and should change. If the current foreign policy is to continue the illegal war in Iran, that needs to change. If current foreign policy is to de facto support Israel no matter what, that policy needs to change. It doesn't necessarily mean that we need to replace it with isolationism. Although at this point, I think I'd find isolationism preferable to some things. But the reality is we live in a global economy, and what happens elsewhere impacts us. And so there are interests, but we need changes. And I want to support the people that are changing and working to change, even if it's impractical, things in the direction that I am currently convinced is better. And considering that I am opposed to quite a bit of our foreign policy under President Trump, like blowing up boats in Venezuela, kidnapping foreign national leaders. And I'm also opposed to domestic policy where, last night during the duologues debate, I was on hold the whole time with one question. That question was, rather than dealing with things in generic terms, I have a specific question, and this is for both of the teams. Of these 5 individuals killed by ICE, Ruben Ray Martinez, Alex Preddy, Rene Good, Joan Sebastian Guerrero, and Lorenzo Araujo, which of those killings were justified, and what specifically, if anything, should be done about those deaths? I think it would have been very interesting to get them. They started to address it at one point. They what's his name? The extra dumb one was like
Marte.
went down the. Sorry, what was that?
Marte was the extra dumb
Marte,
one.
yes, sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry. I'm sorry you're extra dumb, Marte. But by the way, you can call in and debate me anytime on trans stuff, you cowardly bigot. But Marte was like, oh, she was aiming a 3,000-pound weapon at a federal agent. Yeah. Call in and try that with me. Or anybody who knows what the hell they're talking about, because it was a violation of proper procedures. There was no point at which you could make the case that she was doing anything necessarily threatening. Shouldn't have drawn a gun, shouldn't have fired a gun at a moving vehicle. Everything about that was, according to any cop with any sense and any investigator with any sense outside of the fascist government that wants to take out the opposition, it was a bad shoot. It was not justified. Now, of those 5, maybe there was one that you could have justified. I wanted to hear specifically, because I think most sensible people would say, hey, none of those shoots were justified, and the officers and individuals responsible should be prosecuted and to the fullest extent of the law. And that the policymakers and the people who are excusing it and the people who are inhibiting the investigation such that those investigations couldn't happen, those people need to be brought up on charges as well, removed from their job. Unfortunately, we have the dumbest president and the dumbest body of appointees that he can find, all being manipulated by the billionaires so that they can keep getting rich. I'm sorry. I think I got a little bit of somebody's balls in my mouth there, just like they do every fucking time. All right.
I want to Actually, no, this is going to be a good segue, so I'll say it after. So yeah, I'll read this one. Narcissa says, number one, Bill Maher is garbage. And number two, Jeff has pleasant, amazing audiobook narrator voice. So I do have an audiobook, as it turns out. But we'll get to that. I wanted to say a little bit about the shoots that you mentioned.
Yeah.
There are those that come after me that are greater than me. The people in the DSA are like what I would consider in political science like socialist in name only. Like they support certain socialist little bits and pieces, but there are people that I routinely hang out with that believe in dual power structure. They believe in praxis. They believe in all of the things of like armed revolution and all of that stuff. Like they say it out loud, and they are out here looking to radicalize. This message is actually for the MAGA weirdos. If you look at 1-16.200, like that's what Matt was alluding to, and it says don't do this to a moving vehicle, and you're like, yeah, I don't care. You're giving my friends the opportunity to radicalize. That's all you're doing. Because if you don't care about the law, they definitely don't. Like the actual communists out there, they don't care about this law stuff, because the law stuff is what's marginalizing people. And all you're doing is saying, hey, yeah, they're right. You should go with them to do dual power and praxis. And then, so if that's what you want, that's what you're enabling. Right. As for the audio, well, actually, I'll ask you, Matt. Do you want to do the thing now, or I mean, I know we're running late, so we can do it another time if.
Yeah, go ahead, do it now.
Okay, so, and Arden, are you okay with just dropping it in chat, or like?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Oh, wait, did you send me
so
the link, or are you gonna drop it?
I sent you the link. I messaged it to you.
Oh, it's in the Discord, right?
Yeah. So basically, I wrote a book about the Bible, and it's called "If You Have to Explain It," with a subtitle. It doesn't mean what you think it's. It doesn't say what you think it says. And so, in this book, I take a whole bunch of passages from the Bible, show it from different lenses, different groups of people, whether it's academic, critical, rabbinic, and then I take other passages that are pretty direct, not as ambiguous. And the point of the book is to show that when people are engaging with the Bible, even the people who you say, hey, these are super good faith groups of people, they come up to different conclusions, doing their best effort to make it say a thing, right? And so the only conclusion that I can draw is that the Bible is too vague to tell us really anything with any degree of confidence. And even if you're a textual critic and you become fluent in biblical Hebrew, and you become fluent in biblical Greek, and you become fluent in Aramaic, and you study every single stele and every single thing about the cultures of the time, you're never going to be 100% to what the original intention was. You're only going to be guessing. Maybe your guess is better, right? So what I did was just for you guys, for the people that stayed behind, I'm giving away 10 free copies of the ebook of my book just for y'all. And so that's going to be, we're going to drop a coupon code. I'm not sure, like I'm seeing two chats, so I'm not 100% sure where, or if we're just going to put it on the screen. But the first 10 people to grab it, you get it for free. Yeah, that's it.
I put it in the horizontal chat, but I can drop it in the vertical too. Also, I think I accidentally put this link in the description because I thought this was just the general link to your book. So somebody may have already gotten one, but
Oh, here, let me put the coupon code in there, because the coupon code that I sent you, it's right above the first thing.
Oh, okay. So the link is
So
to the
nobody
book.
got it yet.
I'm putting in the coupon code. Got it. Okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
I
So
misunderstood.
no, you're fine. You're fine. So if you go to that link and you when you go to buy the ebook, you put in the coupon code, you just get it for free.
Let me pin that.
Also, I
coupon
want to say
code.
that while I was telling Marte that he could come and debate me whenever he wanted on trans things, it's only on that subject. You're too stupid to debate anything else with me. You're technically too stupid to debate that with me or anybody else on the planet, but I would take personal pleasure in schooling your dumb bigoted ass on that subject. Now, for Jake, who was there and debated alongside Jake, if you want to debate politics, I think you're better off sticking with Jimmy and Jovan because they are orders of magnitude better informed and more adept in that area than I'll ever be. But if you want to debate something about, like religion, or trans stuff, I suppose, I'd be willing to do that. But I'll make you a special deal, Jake, if you see this. And that is, since you seem so confused by it and you seem to be such a fan of Andrew Wilson, I will take you up on a debate where you defend the exact topic that Andrew agreed to defend and desperately tried to avoid. And we'll see if you understand what it means to be a professional debater so that you don't have someone prepare for subject A and then when they're on site, switch to subject B. And so if you'd like to debate with me defending, which is better for reality, which is better for the world, secular humanism, or biblical Christian morality, you can do that because your hero didn't get anywhere near it. And I walked out. You should ask yourself this because people are like, why did Matt walk out? Why did Matt walk out? I've been debating people for years. I've debated professional apologists, people with advanced degrees far beyond mine. Why do you think I would walk away from a guy who doesn't know that a trilemma can't be true, is just a shock jock doing whatever he can to get clicks and views, mocks trans people's suicide as his opening statement, and says that he will concede the entirety of my worldview if I can just demonstrate how a man can get pregnant, something which, by the way, is absolutely trivial. Men can get pregnant because trans men often have functional equipment and can get pregnant exactly the same way cis women can. But Andrew's not going to accept that, and you're not either, because you're a biological essentialist who's confused and doesn't know anything about the subject. And so I decided that rather than sit there and continue to entertain a liar who tried to bait and switch in order to get clicks and attention to get YouTube revenue when he's dumb as a fence post, doesn't understand logic, and can't be honest, I figured I'd just call him out, answer his pathetic question offline, and stop letting modern day debates destroy the good work that I've done and others have done. Don't get me wrong, I helped create the monster. I recognize that. But the monster is now an absolute cesspool of Nazis, flat earthers, and confused dipshits making excuses for having sex with 4-year-olds and pretending that because they can say something offensive and mock people for committing suicide, that all of a sudden they've been upright for God. I was a better Christian than them when I was a Christian, and I'm probably a better Christian now. Andrew Wilson is a weak little man. And that's why all these years later, his fanboys are still coming at me. And I only address him or think about him when you little cucks show up. So let's get back to the super chats. Whoops, I clicked the wrong one. There we go. All right. I suspect that if not just disregard for people's lives, Bill Maher types think raising everyone's pay makes them less competitive employers. I honestly don't know. I've given up trying to read what people's secret intentions are, and I've decided to just take them by what they show. They are what they are.
We got Jeremy Busby saying, I just farted so hard it cracked my back. I should probably get to the bathroom and then a chiropractor. That's probably a good idea.
Maybe. Depends on what you're going to the chiropractor for, because a lot of chiropractors are engaged in a bunch of bullshit woo, but If you want a good massage and stuff like that, I'm probably okay with that. What do you call a cheap circumcision, says Aliashana Silverbow? A ripoff. I'll give it to you. Aliashana always comes up with the groany dad jokes for me in particular. Last night it was or not last night, night before last. Wait. Oh yes, I got home Monday. Yes. So on Monday night, Erica and Blitz were just taking pun after pun after pun after pun. I felt so bad for Erica. I did send it a pun, and it was a good one. Of course, that's not possible according to Erica, so she wants to kill me in a zoo. And she wants to kill me in a zoo because I said I went to a zoo and the only display they had was a dog. It was a Shih Tzu.
Now we got Duskframe 7331 that says, Jeff is awesome. Glad to see him on the line. I'm glad to be on the line. It's a lot of fun. Everybody here is cool to hang out with.
Well, we'll disappoint you at some point, but I'm always happy to have you back. I've had a load of fun. And we got good calls. I was worried we weren't going to get any calls, and we got good calls, and it went well. So probably one of the best. I don't know. I put up a poll. Is this the best week in 2 months for calls? Mr. Monopoly, thank you so much for the $10. Have either of you seen Dr. Ehrman's recent video, 3 Myths Atheists Believe? And if so, if you understand his distinction between myth and theory regarding the Big Bang and consciousness. I have seen that video. I've seen most of the recent videos from Bart, and I don't know that I recall what you're talking about well enough to comment on it right now. So sorry about that.
I think I don't think it really matters. And I saw the video as well. I understand what he's trying to say, but I don't think it's relevant to the discussion about atheism anyway, because I don't think anybody is an atheist because they believe in like nobody looked at CMBR and said, aha, I don't think we think that way, where, especially the ones that are like in doing this publicly, we're not taking little bits of like, oh, consciousness, therefore not God, right? I do know that not just atheists, but people in general are okay taking the consensus of experts in a field, and that's just in one way a pragmatic necessity, and another way just sometimes you don't have time to like or maybe you don't have the skill to parse all that stuff. But like I get what he was trying to say. I just don't think it matters to the greater.
I think that one of the best things I've heard Bart say recently in a video, which I'm sure he said many, many times before, he gave an explanation of the difference between history isn't just the past. The fact that there are things in the past doesn't make them history. History is the special chronicling of a reliable narrative of portions of things that happened in the past, but not just the past. So,
the third one was abiogenesis, by the way.
Okay. All right. For some reason, it did send. I'm just looking at the wrong screen.
All right. So
Yahweh is accountable for all, says Master Builder 3232. Thanks for the $10, but couldn't get his lazy ass up his shiny throne. Christians didn't rule out that Yahweh might be a little smelly, sweaty, wrathful, gray alien with a Lord Farquaad ego. For some reason, I just automatically want to put the word accent there, but fair enough.
Skeptics and Scoundrels, thanks for the $5, saying Loki pretended to die to fool Thor. Does that count? Sure. Loki died a bunch of times.
Yeah. Loki's died more and done more in the MCU demonstrably than Jesus has ever done in reality. I can't wait to see Doomsday. But Molly Rue, $10. Thank you so much. Huge W having Jeff on. Always happy to see him around the debate sphere, including all the feminism debates.
Thank you. I'm glad to be out and about. Oh no, Davin Daum. Hope I said that right. Thank you for the 1999 saying I really appreciated out convo, y'all. Spider bless you back.
Oh, that's Davin who called in. Thank you, and I'll go with
combo.
Spider bless in honor of Arden. No spoilers. Kurt fell 23, $20. Thank you so much. Christianity was used as a tool to keep enslaved people compliant, telling them to accept their role. It is a leech on the Black community. Yeah, it's a leech on many, many communities as well. And it, you know, if you read through, I'm going to do a series of videos that are just, I'm thinking about calling it Red Letter Rapscallion or something similar. Maybe something that's a little shorter and doesn't sound like I'm from the 19th century. But I want to go through what the Bible has just in red letters and compare that with reality and Paul. Because the reality is, Paul is the cornerstone of most modern Christian beliefs. And Jesus was pretty unimpressive. Not just is it preposterous to think that the Almighty God could even think that salt could lose its flavor. I mean, that is something that God could not be wrong about, unless God's, just an idiot and a creator. But to then choose to use that as a parable, because the reality of salt completely undermines the purpose of the parable, which means Jesus is just doing stupid parables. And to speak in parables in order to intentionally hide the meaning is the exact opposite of an open, loving, compassionate being who wants to communicate in a way you can understand. It is a God that is willingly admitting he's actively hiding from some people. You fucking coward. And see, not even a hangnail. No problem at all. I'm here week after week. Doesn't matter how much you drive. Doesn't matter if I have a heart attack. Doesn't matter if I have triple bypass. 22, 23 years. Boom, boom, boom. Taking on all comers. Yeah. Where's your God? Where's any of them? This is why I'm not afraid. Not remotely. I am afraid of some of his followers, but
my 50K gold pieces are safe. We've got Joshua Everett 9887. Thanks for the $5 saying everything can be made illegal if you're in a fascist dictatorship like Texas. True. Yeah, 100%.
Ooh, one of my favorite memes ever I shared. I shared it a couple of times this weekend. I'll see if I can pull it up. But the atheist mechanic is this Felix's child. They present similar arguments, just bad.
I hear you. I had Jovan was talking to Felix a couple weeks ago, and I was just watching, and I had never seen him before, and so I put in Jovan's chat, "Are you keeping my food away from me?" And he goes, "Hey, you want to come up?" And I had a conversation, and it took 30 minutes for him to understand that I wanted him to substantiate premise one, and he just kept repeating his premise one over and over again. I was like, "This is a regular? Like he goes back and does this all the time?" But we've got Master Builder 3232 with $10. Thank you so much. Christians are such sickos. Children in church choirs singing about a man's blood, bought with blood. How about bought with Jesus' trimmed beard instead of Bloody Mary baptism symbolic graphic shit? Yeah, it's smut. I don't think there's a single book of the Bible I could read that doesn't have something with smut in it.
I'm still desperately trying to get this. If you can read this next one.
Sure. We got Kurt Fail again with another $9.99. Thank you. Can Shaggy go on the hypothetical never ban list? Maybe the worst caller ever, but also the funniest call ever. Shaggy is the caller of all time. Zoinks.
He could have gone on the ban list if he hadn't decided to do the Zoink Scoob.
Mm-hmm.
Even after we basically pleaded with him to stop. Absolutely sad. Lenny, $25. Maybe you guys can think of something better to do with it than me. Keep up the good work. Seriously. I'm going to pay for a healthcare. Something we shouldn't have to do, but I'd like to stay alive.
Flibbery giblets. I like saying that. 999 says, here's a recap of everything you missed at the end of the, quote, debate, end quote, last night. Anyway, awesome seeing Jeff on here. Thank you. Like I said, I like being on here. This is dope.
That's top 10, $5. According to the Bible, it is fair to say that Jesus only came to give salvation to the Israelites. He did call a Gentile woman a dog. Yeah, I'm coming only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can pick other verses that suggest otherwise. The meme I was looking for, I guess it doesn't matter to see it, but it has it basically has several animals on it, and then it says, every zoo is a petting zoo unless you're a little bitch. And I'm like, I like that because I have so many animals here, and we have, like, I would love to do more sharing of the sneaks with people in person and online, but there's only so much time in the world.
So we've got Perryform 42 with 10 Canadian dollars. That's more, right? So tonight we had subatomic ambulatory intelligent rocks and the creator that created himself. Well, definitely novel, LOL. Great job by the hosts and those supporting. Thanks. Wonder if I'm going to see the self-created creator on JSTOR or in Phil Papers next month. That would be a sight.
I went and checked because I don't know the current exchange rate, and as it turns out, no, actually, one Canadian dollar is currently 71 US dollars, or 71 cents. Sorry.
Okay.
Not $71. So yes, I thank you either way. I'm not worried about which one's more. I'm just worried about are people watching, learning, sharing, getting stuff out of this. Blue Lear, $5 says, great show, guys. Welcome to the line, Jeff. Peace.
You get a good salute. And the Atheist Mechanic with $10 saying, Jeff, I've appreciated how you've handled these callers. You and Matt are both awesome. Much love to everyone at the line. Much love right back to you.
Green Man Dave, again, not to stir any pots, but I gave Mandisa a crocheted poison apple and she named it Jeffrey. I'll just leave it there. Hey, when you give something to somebody, you don't get to decide then what they name it. That's just the way it goes. I loved it. It was so good to see so many people that I hadn't got to see in a while. Not just the people who normally run the convention, but I mean, there were people there doing panels that I didn't get to go to, and there were some that I did get to go to. Mandisa was there, and I mean, it's old home week every time we get a chance to hang out. So I love it. All right, final super chat for today from Falcon Storm, $10. Red Letter Rapscallion sounds like a Pine Noir novel where they say things like, she was some kind of dame, all curves and sharp edges, like a bad decision in a black dress. Yeah, I could see that. I can do funny voices on occasion. I used to do a really good Morgan Freeman, but I stopped.
We started watching the Spider-Man noir show, and that I only got a few episodes in, but I like it so far.
I've heard really good things about it. I have not yet watched it. But that's because we're still going through Invincible, which as a joke early on, I couldn't remember the name and I called it Insatiable. And so now just as a joke, we always call it Insatiable. It's like, hey, you want to go, I'm on season 4. And it's like, hey, you want to go watch an episode from season 4 of Insatiable? And now Arden does it too. But all that does is now when I talk about it, I can't get the fucking name right without resetting my brain.
I've actually never watched Insatiable, whatever the name is. Insatiable. I've never watched it. There we go. Yeah, I've never watched it. I've always wanted to, though.
Lux defended Omni-Man right?
Okay, for context, Lux didn't just defend Omni-Man for a show we did on Javon's channel. And listen, I don't think this counts as a spoiler because the season's really old. Well, I won't give any details. We were all, with what details most people know about Omni-Man, people were like, how are you going to defend this person as the best superhero ever? That's crazy. But they did a pretty good job, and it was actually very, you guys should watch Ratio on Javon's channel. It's a really, really fun show. But yeah, Invincible's great. Really good animated superhero show. Highly recommend.
Nice. My backlog is just so great. Like, it's nuts how packed my backlog is.
All right. I think we have done all the super chats. So first of all, huge thank you to Jeff. Everybody, please check out his work. Look forward to having him back. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Thanks for spreading the word. Thanks for the great calls. Somebody in chat said that they heard that I had a decent M&M, but now they doubt that. Was that because I did I'm Not Afraid and I didn't actually I'm not afraid. I didn't do the M&M version. I just said I'm not afraid because it did enter my mind, along with all of the lyrics to like White America, which I would do, but we've completely run out of time. So I'll do it some other day. In the meantime, vote, participate. Don't just get a fix on Wednesday nights or Sundays. Don't treat this like it's your substitute for church. Get enthused about trying to fix the world. Elections are happening. There are real changes that can be made. Some of them may be completely ridiculous. Some of them may be undoable. But do the things that you can do. Don't give up. We're better than that. And there are people who need you. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.